I'm going to keep talking randomly about things. Oh, there we go. And because you're masturbating in the background. I was about to say I'm very impressed with your multitasking abilities, if that were the case. Ah, yeah, I have the mic that I'm borrowing from my brother hanging off of the shelf that I just installed. Oh yeah, I'm down. I mean, I just want to make sure the stream looks normal. Yeah, that's the key thing. I'm gonna check that now, actually. Oh, here, let me see. I'm gonna go. Let me see. Do. Hang on. Hmm. I might have to do audio output capture. Hang on. I know, right? God, this commercial is taking forever. Amazon, get your shit. How are there 3 watchers right now? Oh, if there is someone else here. Oh, see, I'm hearing it. Yeah, I'm hearing it. Can you say something, Adam? It shows your light moving, but it doesn't show your noise coming through. Hmm. That's the thing. I can't hear you on the show. 1 second. That's what I gotta figure out. Say something now.
Something now.
Say something now.
Something now.
Yeah, there you go.
What? Did it come through?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
What was wrong? What? Did it come through?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
What was wrong? Who's in the chat with us? Did it come through? In this pre-show show.
Well, now that I know everything's working, I'm gonna mute the Twitch thing. But um,
Aw.
well,
We
I
have
mean,
like 4 viewers, four
no,
other viewers
I'm
besides
not.
me
I
and
didn't
you.
say I'm killing the chat. I said I
Oh.
was. I said I
They
was
can watch.
muting.
They can watch me eat the cheesecake I'm not supposed to be eating.
What? I'm telling
I have
on you.
cheesecake.
Where's your? Give me the number to your doctor, and I'm gonna call him.
My doctor retired.
Oh, we're all dead then. So yeah, what I had to do was I had to capture your audio coming through and send it to Twitch. So that was the audio input.
Okay, make sure you have one for Danny then, and for John, right?
No, that's the thing. It works for everybody. So it's all
Oh,
of us coming through.
okay.
Um,
If you're on right now, let me know if you guys can hear us. We're just bullshitting until 8:30 ish, or until Danny gets on,
mhm.
whichever comes first.
This is actually a new segment that Adam and I are doing. It's where
What
we,
me eating my cheesecake?
yeah. Well, I mean that's just a bit, really. But I mean the new segment is us, offering unsolicited advice to anybody that actually solicits advice to us.
Like life advice?
Yeah, sure. Hang on.
Cheesecake's not bad.
Oh, good. I was worried about that. Heavily worried.
I don't know where it's from though.
John, how does Adam sound like volume level wise?
He says he can hear me.
Well, I know I can hear him, but I just want to make sure that it's leveled out. I don't have a whole lot of control, unfortunately, over audio levels. I'm not cool like John is. Either John. Oh, he said it's coming in good. Sweet. Better than before. Nice. All
Better
right,
than before.
we
Before
don't
what?
need before with the other John.
Don't
Because
clap into the mic.
oh, I'll clap into whatever I want. Can't tell me what to do, Dad.
With that, I'm done with my cheesecake. Don't tell my mom.
I mean, we could get started now if you wanted to.
We have 7. I know.
Yeah.
My wife asked me, how come we start so late, and I'm like, well, because John who has to put his kids to bed at like 8 o'clock,
It's because we hate our East Coast fans.
and and yeah, that's more or less what she said. I said, well, if he wasn't, then we could have started. I said I would prefer to do it at like 6 or 7 for the
Yeah.
East Coast, and even she understood that. I'm just like, yeah, but it goes. She's like, that's what happens when you have friends that have young kids. I'm like, yeah, I know, but old people suck,
People do suck. Generally
especially
speaking.
when I look in the mirror. Hello, Ish. Um, so so that was a couple hours ago. Finished my article for Bells.
For bells.
I'm looking at the memes.
Oh yeah, there's
Um,
some pretty good memes in here.
so we'll see. Getting all the epic stuff ready.
Yeah. Ooh, I guess I should
All that
open the
reminds me.
show notes.
Yeah, I gotta open all those. I
Get
have
all
to
the
open all the
the sweet articles.
tabs.
Yeah, tabs
All
on
the
tabs on tabs.
sweet tabs.
It's actually a decent amount to talk about. Dang.
Did you add to the show notes?
I'm gonna look in just a second. When I feel like it. Do 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 do. Show notes. Did we want to talk about some of the Psychic Awakening reveals? Just even if briefly, like the Death Guard.
Type it in there.
Yeah. Let's see. PA reveals. Chernobyl. Yeah, Death Guard. Talons. All got some sweet shit. The only thing we don't know about yet is Sisters. And I think their preview comes up tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, so add it to the show notes. It's on the minutes. It's back in
Good,
the
because
docket.
I can't find the show notes in this mess that we have as a folder.
Dude, just click the link you gave us.
Too easy.
Freaking Let's see.
Folder. A mess, I says.
Tabs on tabs on tabs.
What did you add? Okay. You read all that, right? You'll take
Uh,
the lead on that.
Lead
On
on
the
what?
PA reveals.
Oh yeah. I mean, I got him locked in my brain. I am curious though. There's no way to like. Oh wait, maybe I can do it like this. I'm gonna test something real quick.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Oh, okay, that might be. I think I have to mute myself in two
Discord?
different places. Yeah. Well, I do mute myself in Discord for you, but then for Twitch, I'd have to mute myself in OBS, which is strangely odd.
Okay, well, let's just not try to mute yourself.
No, I didn't. I undid it.
Because you could be talking this whole time and nobody could hear you.
I could be, yes. But then at the same time, self burn, would anyone really care?
There's a whole section you got to talk about.
Yeah, probably
So
a section.
in this instance, yes.
For once, we actually need you to put something in here. Oh, Jeff.
Jeff doesn't care.
Well, it's funny because Jeff is always like, to me, the most reinforcing person. Where he's like, "Dude, you got this. You can handle it. Like, I believe in you." Blah blah. And then in the same breath, he's also like, "By the way, you can eat shit and die."
Yeah, he doesn't say that when you once you walk away.
Yeah,
So
I
you
know.
know. The
I
crown, the wishful thinking. The crown means you're a Twitch Prime. You have Twitch Prime. We all know you have Twitch Prime.
mm-hmm. Which means I better see that sub count go up like right now. You know
Please,
what I mean?
I don't even sub to our own channel.
I
We
do whenever
support
I don't want to deal
stuff.
with ads.
Our channel.
Yeah, only when I don't want to watch ads. I switch it around.
Well, yeah, because it resets every month,
Mm-hmm.
which is fucking annoying.
Yeah, I guess I'm not on Twitch enough to notice that then.
Yeah, I turned my light off and I turned the other light away from me, and it's still lighting up my face, so I look
Sanctic.
lighter. Sanctic.
I didn't know you were going with the whitewashing angle.
I was gonna say lighter, but okay.
All I'm waiting for is at one point for that door behind me to open, and I won't
Like
have no. Yeah,
you'll
and
be a
I.
real Twitch.
Oh my god. Yeah. If
You have
anyone
to
in
turn around. You have to try and go, Mom.
the, it'd be more. No, I'm the only one here. So if that door opens, I'm probably dead. That's my logic.
Luckily, my window basically faces our little patio in our front,
Mm-hmm.
so I can hear them coming for me.
Oh, nice.
I mean, there's no place for me to hide because I'm literally in a corner.
But hey, you know
But
what? I'd rather know if I'm. It's that kind of foresight knowledge would be good.
I at least know the end is coming.
Hmm. I keep going back and forth because I believe we've already talked about it. Oh, never mind. We haven't talked about it, so I won't say anything. No spoiler alerts.
Even with John not here, he provided the memes.
Yes. Even in death, he still serves. Serves hot memes.
I mean, we can start now if you want. Doesn't matter to me. But
Yeah.
I'd rather have Danny on.
Well, I mean, we can just keep bullshitting around for a little bit.
Sure.
Um. Oh, like for example, we can tell people that. And I think I mentioned this last episode. You're trying super hard to get me into Epic.
Well, I already roped my brother in.
You already wrote your.
I mean, my roped my brother John.
Oh yeah.
He's playing Raven Guard, which is going to be super easy to paint. So,
Yep.
well, they all are. It's fucking 6 millimeter.
Yeah.
The
So.
Titans are the one that's the difficult one.
Yeah.
I ordered all the weapons, the different weapons for the Reavers and the Warlords.
Okay.
So those will be on their way soon. And then just putting all the armies together really, and then
Yeah.
3D printing what I don't have because they don't make or they never did make models for them, like the Sakaran. They never made a Sakaran model because it didn't exist 20 years ago.
That's so interesting too that they made rules for these models and like in a lot of ways never had any real intention of making them and still made rules. Still made
Well,
rules for them.
it's fan based, so the fans made the rules, not GW.
Oh, okay. Then scratch that whole comment.
Anything after I want to say 2004, um, GW didn't make rules for. It's been fan made.
Hmm.
That includes regular Epic. If you're not playing Epic 40, what was the last one called? Epic 40,000
Hmm.
or Epic Armageddon. I forget one of the two. The two sucky ones.
So
But we're playing a version of what's called Net Epic, which is basically second edition Epic Space Marine, but adjusted for the modern times.
I know you've told me before, but you want to go into again about because you play 40k. That's obviously much more like small army based, squad based, if anything.
Right.
What about Epic makes you like it so much that even like 20 years 30 years later you're still playing it and like on a technically a homebrewed system by fans?
It's basically for that grand tactical type of feeling
Okay.
where you can actually have a chapter of Marines fighting. and you can have Titans. Well, I mean, 20, 30 years ago, they didn't even make Warlord Titans. Forge World wasn't a thing, you know. So it was a way to have Titans from not just Imperium, but from different races fight it out, which is
Mm.
what the original game was about. So it was that, and it was just seeing, fighting over actual cities as opposed to a little, basically what is essentially a block. If you play 40K, you're basically fighting over like a city block, and that's basically it,
Yeah.
as opposed to fighting over what could be possibly a city.
Yeah. Okay.
So things like that. And
Huh.
it's same thing. I used to play Napoleonics, also in the same scale,
Okay.
and I enjoyed that one because of how colorful Napoleonic armies are. So that's why nobody plays 6 mil Napoleonics. They play 15 or 28.
I mean, I don't even
So
play
that's why
any of them.
I play those. And I actually enjoyed. I once wanted to play what was it, Ancients, but with Macedonians, because they can have all the pikes. So seeing
Hmm.
a bunch of pikes in a row is pretty neat.
Well, yeah.
It's almost literally a god view because everyone's so small.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I totally get that just because I played like a lot of RTS video games.
Right.
Like that was kind of my real first foray into computer games and stuff like that. Although by the time like they got like insane, like Supreme Commander, for example, that was just like too much. I was like, I there's way too much information going on here. I cannot handle this. Like the highest my computational limit for managing an army could get was Age of Empires, like that scale.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
yeah.
like anything bigger than that, and you'd be surprised how many like computer games after it came out, and they're like, yes, you can control over 1,000 units on 5 different planets that are all true
Oh,
scale.
God.
And I'm like, Jesus, like yeah,
Yeah,
like
I guess you know what the best description of Epic is almost like, I guess, Total War,
yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
because GW came out with a fantasy version called War Master, but that was what's funny about that is that was 10 millimeter scale, which is almost double the size of the 40K version.
Huh? Interesting.
So and then Rick Pleasley developed that, and he ended up going to Warlord Games, which is a historical company for those that don't know, and
Hmm.
that's and they use that War Master system, the skeletons of it anyway, in their a lot of the games that they produce.
Are they still pretty active in terms of being a game developer? I mean, I can't think of a game right off the bat that they've made, but like what's like some of the
Bolt Action is Warlord.
okay, cool. Yeah, I know Bolt
Yeah,
Action.
Bolt Action, Cruel Seas, Blood Red Skies,
Okay.
Judge Dredd. They have the recent Judge Dredd game.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have a bunch. They actually have a lot, actually.
Solid.
So Dan, for those that are waiting right now, we're just testing stuff and decided just to stay on.
Yeah.
Danny hopefully will be on at 8:30, and he'll probably be voice only though.
Yeah. I actually was kind of surprised. Part of me was like, oh, we have such a great following. We barely start streaming, and already we've got 8 users in chat. And then I'm thinking, like, well, how much of that is desperation to not deal with anybody else or living with quarantine time? It's like, oh, honey, the show started. I gotta go. I gotta see ya.
I gotta watch the show.
I gotta hit my soaps.
Gotta watch my stories.
Gotta watch my stories.
My stories. But yeah, I'm trying to get into that. At the same time, there's a bunch of other games I want to play. But
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just more like, I just really want Ninth Edition to finally, excuse me, be fully out, so I can just dive headfirst into that and get on board with all of that stuff, and just because like it's fun to speculate and it's fun to be like, oh, what about this? And it's fun to read the rules, but like
hmm
my brain doesn't retain any of it because it's like I don't know the whole story. So why am I gonna try and like come up with like a battle? Like I'm not even gonna try to build lists. Um,
yeah,
like there are certain things you hear about and you're like, oh, okay, well, I have a strong inclination, like, uh, and we'll go into specifics later.
yeah,
But
yeah. There's times where like I should just build a list, but I'm like, well, we don't know anything, so
yeah,
it's not.
exactly,
I mean, I could build a list, but I could be over by like 250 points or something.
exactly. Or like for example, like there's like a really amazing Death Guard rule for Psychic Awakening that like makes them like even more insanely durable. So it's like, oh, I could build this sweet ass like zombies of death trudging space marine plague marine army. But then there could be like one rule in the new book where it's like it just totally makes it not that great anymore. It's
Right.
like
Right.
only one only one unit can benefit from an aura ability per turn.
Oh my God.
I would just be like, all right, guys, I'm gonna jump to Sigmar. See you later.
Jump to Sigmar.
Yeah. So. What else? What else has been? We've been playing a lot of Apex.
Yeah.
We've been playing a lot of Apex. I feel like we should be streaming that more, but I guess we don't.
Well, let me ask Danny if he's gonna be on. If not, we can just start.
Oh, sure. Actually, while you do that, I'm gonna go top off.
So everyone in the chat, just what else have you guys been working on? I know Jeff finally painted the Yinkarn. The Yinkarn? Yes. No? I don't remember, Jeff. It only took him 4 months of quarantine. I finally put a model together after 4 months. I'm gonna have to paint it. And then I dropped off our Eldar army with Tom.
Yes, I do have them.
Oh, Jeff's apparently going to play Harlequins now. He's been hanging around Alan too long.
Ooh. Testing out two color schemes. Yeah. No, we've got a cool color scheme we're gonna do for the TFG Eldar. It's gonna be kind of the body is gonna be kind of like a Lehman Russ gray, like the Space Wolves gray, followed by their helms are gonna be primary orange and then white and black as needed. So it's gonna look cool. I'm excited. Did you say it was mostly Wraith stuff?
It's mostly Wraith stuff with 2 Wraith Knights.
Yeah.
And a bunch. It's a Wraith army essentially from what we have. I mean, there's other stuff to it, but I think the built stuff is Wraith army. We probably still have to add stuff to it, but we have at least the core of an army.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And once we get all the information for 9th edition, we'll have a better idea of where to take the army.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun too because like I'm just excited to have a hobby project again. It's been a while, and I could do a lot of touch ups on my Grey Knights, but I mean they look really good, and you're only going to notice the small details if you're like really up close looking at them. But they're like absolutely table and tournament ready for sure.
Yeah.
And the basing. Oh my god, I don't know if I'll ever do that again. That was
the basing we can save for last and decide what to do as a group.
Oh, for the Eldar?
For the Eldar.
Oh, actually, I already knew what I was going to do for that.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking of my Grey Knight bases.
Then I hate Quark.
No, I'm not using that. No. They're going to be the Eldar are going to be on regular flat bases. We're not going to do any Quark stuff. And then, do you remember what the bases look like for my Custodes? Where it was like the gravel, the black gravel, and the snow. It's like a really clean, easy thing, and it goes really well with brighter colors. So it's basically it would be like a Space Wolf base, really. Okay. And since they're primary Lehman and they've got the orange trim and everything, it'll look good. That was my plan, and it's also super easy to do.
That means you're in charge of basing every model we get for that army.
Or I can just give you the very simple instructions.
Nope.
It's not that hard.
Nope.
It actually really isn't that hard.
Nope. I already said it. It's been assigned.
All right, well, that means I get first dibs on using it. Forever and ever.
What does that even mean?
It means we're all going to a tournament. We all want to use the Eldar. I get dibs.
No, the person who bought it gets dibs since he wasn't compensated.
Okay, well, how about that? Since you bought it and I'm compensating it by painting it, you and I just flip a coin.
I probably won't ever use it, to be honest.
I could see you. I could see you getting behind a Wraith army just
And
because
a
of like.
Wraith Army, I can get behind. I actually once bought the they sold they did sell an army box, almost not exactly the same as the one from last year, which was the two Wraith Lords and then a
Mhm.
bunch of Wraith constructs. But I bought one, the Ayenden one from I think it was like two. No, I think it was sixth edition, and it sat in my at my house like most things do for about a year or two, and then I think I turned it back in and just got credit for it, store credit for it.
Sadness.
But yeah, a Yenden army or a ghost army is probably the only way I would play Eldar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Not the Elder Flyer spam kind of guy.
well, we'll see with the max of -1/+1.
Which, by the way,
What's the point?
I'm noticing it only really applies to certain things because they actually in one of the previews they talked about leadership -3 or psychic test -3. I think it
Right.
was.
So it could probably only applies to hit modifiers.
It probably yeah. I think it only applies to hit or wound modifiers. I think that's what they're going to limit it at.
Probably.
Which
I can
make
see that.
which makes sense because those were the only other modifiers that were a big deal because cover save modifiers, right? When people could
Yeah.
get 2 up invols, excluding the Archon, people getting 2 up invols was like a pain in the ass until they made it's essentially a game wide rule of maximum 3+. Like the
Yeah,
best invol you can get is a 3+.
but then you get in that gray area when a rule says it adjusts the die roll, but not, it basically it adjusts the die roll. It
Yeah,
changes the die roll, but
not the
not the
statistic.
save. No, not the save. Not the save statistic. Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
still a 3+. It's still a 3+ save, but you because you're changing the die roll and not the save itself. That's where people
right.
will argue you'd still get the 2+.
Well,
Essentially.
hopefully they make that clearer or they make that more universal, I guess. Or like, have like a normal order of operations mathematically like, you know, the rest of the world does with everything else.
Well, no. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know. They change. It seems like they want to change everything all the time. So
Hmm.
hopefully the app will do it for me. It'll be an everything app.
That's yeah. I wonder if there's a subscription service where you can actually pay the app to play your games for you. That'd be kind of interesting.
That's why I have a kid.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I'm basically working on the Epic stuff, putting all that shit together. And eventually, because I do have a small 3D printer, I did order a larger one for larger prints, but I have to 3D print a lot of the models that aren't available anymore.
Mm.
So once I do that, then we'll have all the models we need. Well, we essentially do have all the models we need to play a proper game.
A rotten proper game of Epic.
So my brother and I will probably be the first. My brother will probably be the first victim.
Yeah. I'll definitely get more into it once I can actually like physically play it.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll also for those listening, we will also have an update on the store since the last we talked because it's been kind of crazy the last 2 weeks
Yeah.
since we were last on air, and that's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah, like that meme where it's like the guy and he's just like that's basically been everything we've been hearing about the store, except it's like on a daily basis.
You cut out again
I did?
on the part with the joke on the punchline.
Oh no, I intentionally didn't say anything.
Oh, then okay.
That's that meme. It's that gif where the guy is just like sitting there and he's like oh really? Like that guy.
Oh, it's hard. I'm not looking at the video, so that's why I
Oh,
can't see
there you go. See, I'm doing nothing but staring adoringly at your face. So
it. I'm looking at two screens. Leave me alone.
I am basking in the gloriousness that is 3, which has been really helpful for work actually. Yeah, if I'd known that quarantine was going to be as long as it was, I would have shelled out for a better desk. We have this old desk. I mean, I'm using it now, but it's a puzzle desk. So it's like
Okay.
four
I don't know what
pieces.
that means.
Basically, it's four pieces of solid wood that you put together like a puzzle, like almost like a giant like 3D jigsaw.
Okay.
And it was
That's
free.
funny.
It was given to us.
Okay.
It's rather sturdy, but it's
That's what
short.
I'm hearing so far.
There's not a lot of depth to it, and also it does this fucking curve thing where like this part of the desk is more forward than this part, and so like it's not consistent, and it drives me crazy OCD wise.
So is it curved so people can scoot in closer?
Kind of, I think. Like I don't know. Like I feel like it's definitely designed so that the person sitting is more on this side of the desk, but it's like but that's like a whole like I don't know. I feel like most desks are now designed where it's like you sit in the center, you have the broad range of the whole space, and it's just so frustrating to do it. It's like yeah, I would have definitely gotten a desk. I would have gotten I would have gotten a computer chair because there are some days where I'm just like sitting in this wood chair. I'm like, good God, my butt is done.
I know. I bought a computer chair.
I should have done that. I should have done that long ago. What's up, Lord Marshall?
Oh, look at Jason staying up late. Jason, John's excited to be on the broadcast on Sunday, especially how he heard how you guys butchered his name on 40K today.
Mm-hmm. He never listens to podcasts, but he made a special exception to go and find that piece of audio.
Well, he only listens when I tell him to either talked about us, made fun of us, or made fun of his name or something like that. It's the only time he'll listen.
Are you saying there's an audio issue with us? Oh, double echo? Oh. That's not good. Let me see.
Is it when both of us talk, or just me, or just Tom?
Both of us.
Both. You might have something on.
Well, I'm trying to think of what that would be.
It's in OBS.
Oh.
2 audio channels are live.
Jeff says he has no audio issues.
Thanks for trying to sabotage us, Jason.
I don't have 2 audio. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, chat. Thanks for protecting us from the Lord Marshal of bullshit. No. No, it's
Newsflash: Lord Marshall tries to sabotage local podcast.
Yeah. Because I've got the input capture, I've got the output capture, and then the desktop audio, but the desktop audio isn't built in anywhere. It's just showing there. No, I appreciate it. It's honesty like that from our user and fan base that it keeps us full of integrity.
So it was Jason. Jason, stop trying to sabotage the show.
My brother works in IT, or did for a long time before he does what he does now, which is even more sophisticated stuff. But he said he and his buddies in the IT department always used to joke like, "Oh, this guy's got an EBCAC error," and they would say that, and like they'd go to people's desks and they'd be like, "Oh, it looks like you got an EBCAC error," and they're like, "Oh yeah," and they pretend to know what it is because nobody wants to not know what things are. And it was an acronym they made up just for themselves, and it's error between keyboard and share. So they were just like going around and just like insulting people with like. I was like, that's a very IT nerd thing to do. I was also like, that totally checks out. I know my brother's sense of humor. That's exactly how they would do things. It was me.
Jason.
Well, it's 8:16.
Yeah, we can start.
We can start. I mean, yeah, he'll probably show up around 8:30.
Okay.
Want me to count you in?
Yes, so I know what's going on.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The last 2 seconds are silent.
Okay,
since
sorry.
I can see you.
I think I've heard this.
Fine.
I've heard this argument before.
You've only heard me say it
All
literally every time.
All right,
John.
yeah.
John
Let me, since you can see me, I'll do the whole bit now. Ready? Like, ready? 5, 4.
No, you're supposed to. So I have to see you make the numbers.
I
Three,
was doing the
two,
numbers.
one.
I was doing the numbers. Did you not look at the screen?
No,
Okay. Okay. All right. We're
I
doing it
just wanted.
again.
I just wanted to flip you off on screen.
God damn it. All right. We're doing it again. We're doing this live. Do it
Hold on.
live.
We'll have to switch to because I don't have whatchamacallit on. I'm not looking at
Discord.
Discord. Now I am.
Okay. Ready? Five,
No.
4.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of TFG Radio. I think we're at episode 62, maybe. I don't know. I don't keep track. I don't keep track till afterwards. As you can tell, it's right now it's just me and me and Tom. Sorry, Tom.
That's okay.
Danny will join us shortly after. John is not with us today. He is
Dead.
conducting the final run of his election campaign for his totally real reenactment club for the King's German Legion of Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody wish John luck with his new slogan.
Yeah, I heard he was reenacting
And,
right now, currently with some very important constituents. Hopefully he gets that
yes.
tip. Hopefully he gets that tip vote.
So he may actually be on later on tonight, but for now it's just Tom and I, and Danny should be on shortly at about 8:30. We said 8:30. We got on earlier to talk, to kind of test the sound,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up just talking for the next like half hour, 45 minutes.
Because
so we'll put
friendship.
that. We'll never claim that. Um, so what I end up doing is probably put all that on Patreon for the Patreon members, give them something because they haven't got anything in the last few episodes.
Here's your pittance.
But it's been fairly busy, to say the least.
It's a lot of stuff.
GW has I can't remember if they did it with 8th edition, but they decided to put out little tidbits of information in regards to the new edition, so we can go over them with a fine tooth comb and over exaggerate every little thing and panic over every little thing.
Yes.
So
when 8th was coming out, they did kind of broad strokes of what was going to happen. So, for example, they had a whole article about stratagems are a thing, and like here are what the new detachments look like, but they didn't heavily go into the mechanics too much, if I remember correctly.
Right. I don't think so, and they didn't do a daily Twitch stream.
No, that's new, and I think honestly the only reason they're really doing a daily Twitch stream is because of Corona time, the Corona end times.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, because they do the Twitch stream and then they put out the article. They could just put out the article.
They could, but I think that they're taking advantage of everybody being home, like easy access to a computer. Like if I started work a little earlier, I'd totally tune in and watch. Or I mean, because I'm working from home, I can hey, I can open up a tab and watch them while I work or catch the episode I missed.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, especially if you have Prime and you missed it, because I think it's rewatchable like immediately afterwards, or a little while, and then you have to be you have to have a subscription with them to watch it like the next day or whatever.
Right.
So for those that don't know, that they've been doing daily tidbits about the new edition around 7:30 Pacific time, 10:30 Eastern every day for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, they've been really consistent.
Yeah, I'm sure Stu, who is the head designer,
wants to shoot himself.
I'm sure he's excited each and every for him evening, because it's at I think like 7:30 in the evening over there.
Actually, 7:30 here, and I know this because we have a London office.
Oh no, yeah, it's 8 hours, so it's what 2:30,
4:30.
4:30. So like that's more or less I think near quitting time.
Mm-hmm.
So
not a bad way to end the day.
I guess. I don't know.
It's better than writing emails and doing real work.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna say anything else. I'll probably get in trouble.
Oh.
I might say something people might not like about the community.
I know half as you as well as I'd like, and I like half as you as much as you deserve.
So we'll start with the most recent, which was today. And today they talked about terrain. We all knew that terrain was going to be kind of a thing, but I don't think we knew exactly how. And today they gave more information about how that it's going to work and the way what it looks like, how it's going to work is it. It almost reminds me of, and so other people have mentioned it, is like for the fourth edition cover, the rule set in terms of cover,
Hmm.
and so how some of them, how especially how some of them act. So they have categories, and then they have what are they called? What they're calling traits, which I think are similar to basic like chapter traits. They did mention that you can discuss what traits um, certain terrain features have, and they can have multiple traits. They don't just have one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think discussing it unless it's a casual game. If you're in a turn, because we're more well, as anyone who listens or watches us knows, we're basically a tournament competitive podcast more or less, but
Mm-hmm.
more focusing on the judge angle. Um, so I don't think having the player, personally as a judge, I don't think you should have players discussing what the terrain is going to be, especially if we have clear cut definitions from GW telling you what is what.
I think what'll happen is in the beginning there'll be kind of this like bid for control of like, oh, but it's like it's my tournament, my table, my rules. You know, like this is how I wanted to find these terrain pieces, especially if I think it'll help my army. But I think over time, what we're going to see is people are just going to be like, we're just going to all kind of get in the fold and follow the rest of the pact, and it'd be like be in agreement about how most terrain pieces work. Especially considering like when it comes to like when you see a piece of terrain, it's very clear like what kind of thing it is. So I think
Well, plus also if you look at the community article, Games Workshop gives you a couple pieces like ruins and the armored container
right.
as an example. Now I don't know if they're gonna do that with all basic. Well, they probably will for all of their at least terrain pieces, but that should give you an idea of what most terrain pieces should be categorized as.
Yeah, and
I think I think TOs are going to do like you just said, where it's well, this is my event, so this is how we're going to define these type of terrain
right.
pieces, especially if they have unique ones just for their event.
I think
So,
uh, I think a certain Danny is appearing, if you know soon.
a what?
Oh, his
Oh, okay, yeah, I see it. So yeah, so I think yeah, so I think that oh man, now you just derailed me.
you're talking about tournament runners
No,
doing
I
their own
know,
thing,
but
and then
uh, yeah, so I think that's going to be the norm in terms of just turning. Now, that all may depend on how basically the big three are going to do it. Unfortunately, for those that don't know, Nova recently, just yesterday, canceled Nova for this year. So we're not going to know how, if ninth edition was going to come out in time, how they were going to do it in terms of their terrain. So the next big event is SoCal Open, and among other things, so we'll see how Reese and them define the terrain for that. And I think once people see how Frontline Gaming, Adepticon, which is next, or LVO, and then Adepticon, will once you see how they define their terrain is when you'll see. I think when you'll probably see other smaller tournaments that maybe don't have that special way that they do things, like some tournaments may have a special terrain piece or a special way they do their tournament that it requires rules just for them. But other tournaments like the ones I run aren't really don't have something like that. So I usually just follow what Frontline does. And I think
hmm,
once we see that, we'll see a lot of tournaments fall in line with that, with what they do and how they define stuff.
can barely hear you, Danny. I don't know if we can. You're coming in spurts. Yeah, no audio. Um, for me, the thing I like about what they're doing with terrain right now is they're actually giving it like they're giving it categories and traits,
Right.
and that's I think that's just a really smart move in general, because first off, people are already geared to think about the game in that term. So I have a
Mm-hmm.
category of something. It's a faction, or it's a unit type, or it's like infantry or whatever. then you go into the more specific, and then based on what those are, those things have certain traits. Like
Hmm.
infantry has certain things it does, various other items, and that just makes cleaning up the rules or updating the rules for those things much easier. So
Oh yeah,
I think that was
yeah,
just a
and
really smart move for them to do that.
I think it takes out, especially if tournament organizers put the traits and up front. Here's what all this stuff is, because then it takes out a lot of the guesswork and a lot of the quote unquote discussion players have
Right.
at the start of a game. In regards to what is that? What is this? What are we calling this terrain piece?
Exactly.
Which happens a lot. Oh, we didn't talk about that. So yeah, so then there's that discussion on turn three when it really matters.
So is this the time for Hammerhead Games to come out with a token set of all the tags for the terrain?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
There's a free one for you, Tony. I was gonna say what before, trying to get my setup because I have a small human sleeping like 5 feet from me. Um, is I would be shocked if Frontline didn't include like the recommended tags for all of their terrain pieces at some point, right? Like, oh hey, this building, right? Like we recommend it be tagged as ruins, area terrain, um, defensible, breachable, obscurable, blah 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 blah.
Right. No, well, we'll see. I mean, to be honest, I mean, we may actually have to do that for them, especially for something like LVO.
I
But
feel like Frankie would do that since he's like the terrain guy anyway. So I feel like he would just, he probably has an
well,
idea in his head already what they
a,
should be.
a lot of their stuff is. I mean, I don't mean it as an insult, but I mean a lot of their stuff is the same
Right.
in terms of their buildings.
Yeah. So I think
They don't make a lot of other stuff other than buildings.
like I said, I think we'll see like the standard ruins that we've been using will be
Hmm.
area terrain, ruins, breachable, defensible, obscurable, and then whatever else comes in there.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier where GW has kind of give us the example where they use the ruins and the armored container.
Right.
So, or they showed that in the thing. So I'm wondering if they're gonna. I'm assuming they're gonna list everything that they make anyway.
I would not. I would be shocked if they didn't, or if they're not like the least the major kits that have come out in the last like 2 years, right? Like their major
Yeah,
terrain kits.
yeah, and then you can just use that as a template for whatever whatever you have.
Yeah, no, no doubt.
So yeah, so that I mean, I think we still have to see that, and I think we still have to see what like I said before, we're gonna have to see what unfortunately we're not gonna be able to see what Nova does because they canceled theirs. They announced their cancellation yesterday. Um, we at the time of this recording on Thursday, they canceled. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Yeah.
It
I think
was,
it was
yeah,
yesterday.
yeah. I think it was yesterday.
So we'll have to wait till SoCal Open to see what one of the big three what they're gonna do
Hmm.
in regards to how they're gonna define stuff.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that's I think will be I think SoCal will be the first really big one that most people look to. I mean Slaughterfest is going to run its ninth, assuming it's out in time. Um,
yeah,
but
we don't
you
have a
know,
date yet, as a confirmed date. There's a lot of rumors, but that doesn't really mean anything. They can change their minds at any time.
Hmm.
yeah. Well, like I said, I'm from my side. I think I think this was clearly meant to be out earlier. Corona kind of screwed it.
Right.
So I'm sure they have everything built, ready to go. It's just, is it in the right warehouses it needs to be? Because they shut down for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then they got
Yeah.
to start back up again, right? So
Yeah.
that international shipping to make sure all the distributors have the stuff they need, et cetera, probably takes time to do.
Well, especially too, given the fact that like they were shocked supposedly at their own success with the sisters box. So I'm guaranteeing you they're probably going to take out extra stops to like make sure that whatever ninth edition box comes out or whatever ninth edition setup comes out that they're ready to go.
We'll find out on Saturday.
Well, they've never had an issue with edition releases.
Yeah, they go pretty hard on that because I mean the
Yeah.
edition release boxes
Yet.
stay in circulation the whole edition.
No. Yeah. Like look at Dark Imperium. I mean,
Yeah.
they know it's something they're going to sell for the next 3 years at the very least, so they'll have enough.
Yeah,
They should have enough stock.
that's true because at any given point in time, any person can be like, "Hey, I want to get into this game." You know, the local game store owner says, "Hey, well, here's this box set for you to get into this game," even though it came
You
out
and a friend can get in this game. You split the
exactly.
cost. You both get an army,
Yeah,
right? Like there you go.
exactly,
What's up, Axis
exactly.
of Entropy? Um, yeah. So, any other thoughts on the terrain?
Did we want to talk about the three rules they gave us, specifically like light, heavy, and obscuring?
Yeah, there's already confusion over the heavy cover from
Yeah.
a number of places that I've read in regards to a unit that charges into the heavy cover.
Yeah, because what is
So,
I have it in front of me,
this,
or
yeah, so do I. So it says when attacks, so for heavy cover, when an attack made with a melee weapon wounds a model that is receiving the benefits of cover for this terrain feature, add 1 to the saving throw. So it's just like being in cover from shooting
mm-hmm.
made against that attack, unless the model making the attack made a charge move this turn. Invulnerable saves are not affected. So some people are interpreting that as well. I thought it was just that the charging models does not get the +1 saving throw.
That would seem like the natural thing, right? Because like you're just getting into the terrain, you
Yeah,
haven't been like set up to like take a hit yet. Like it would be weird. It would kind of, especially considering how fast melee can go. It would be very
yeah,
surprising if it's like, here's this heavy cover that only works if you make it to the second round of combat. You know?
yeah. I think some people were confused and thought it affected the defending unit, but they didn't make a charge move, so that it's only the attacking unit. At least that's the way I read it. Danny, have you really looked at it yet?
Yeah, the way it's worded, it
It's
seems like if the attack is being generated from a charging model, you don't get the bonus.
I mean, that's how I'm
Well,
reading it
that's the
too.
thing. See that? So it's either the attacking unit doesn't get the bonus, or the unit being attacked doesn't get the bonus. So that's where the
I need
confusion
to get it in
lies.
front of me again.
It just says, like I just read, it says add 1 to the saving throw made against that attack,
Send it to.
unless the model making the attack made a charge move this turn.
Yeah, so if the model making the attack made a charge move, you don't get the bonus. So
As the
really,
defender.
it's yeah, as the defender. So really, heavy cover is actually a benefit for the assaulter because you assault in, and assuming you get fully within the terrain, you make your attacks, blah blah blah. When they attack you back, you get the bonus, you get the protection.
That's an interesting
The
way to look
the
at
attack.
it.
Yeah, so it's like actually a bonus for melee units that assault into. So if you're in terrain that's like, oh, it's heavy cover, that's actually bad for you, right? If you're the defender.
Huh.
I'm gonna go with the English major on this one, the English
That's what
professor.
that's how it reads, right?
It's
Like that's what the
yeah,
words on the
But
page mean. If that's what they intended, it could just be
yeah,
an error, right? Like it
yeah.
could
right,
just be like they try like from a lot of the rules I'm seeing, it seems like they're trying to take a lot more precaution in how they're wording things to be more precise, which is
right.
good. But there's also because language, especially English, requires such complex language to be precise that they might have fucked up. I would not put it past them that someone going through there just basically
Mhm.
got their subjects confused of who they're trying to transitively put this phrasing onto, right? And did the reverse of what they wanted. But I don't know. I mean, that's up for GW to clarify.
Yeah, yeah, and in the also in the talk they talked about dense cover, which seems to affect the hit modifier.
hmm
And then other things we saw was defensible, breachable, scalable, exposed position, and we don't know what a lot of those mean.
Not yet, no.
So we'll have to wait and see.
And then the big one I think people have been talking about too has been obscuring, and like
Yeah, that's big. I mean, that's taking the ITC rule and expanding it a lot.
Yeah, that's a pendulum switch, a swing basically that we know and love. So basically, if the terrain is more than 5 inches tall, correct,
hmm
and the model you're shooting at is behind it but not in it, and less than 18 wounds, you cannot target it. Doesn't
Right,
matter how
and it has like
doesn't
something about like you draw a
you
line
draw a
one
line of sight.
millimeter.
It
yeah.
mentions 1 millimeter wide, which I don't know why I kind of know why they did
It's
that,
it's the
but
same. It's the same. It's like a Euclidean thought thing. It's like they need
Whoa, whoa,
to.
whoa, whoa! Language, Mister.
I just said Euclidean.
We
Whoa.
don't use the E word in this household, all right?
I'm
this
sorry.
is a this is a Christian server.
Sorry, I'll only invoke Ptolemy when I'm talking about geometry. No, but I mean, what was it? It's. See, now I don't even remember where I was going with that. Thanks.
You're going
It's
good.
it's there. So again, if you flank somebody around it and you can draw a line from your base to their base
Yeah.
without going through the terrain, you can see them, right? So it actually makes it so flanking things is useful, right? And getting those side angles.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy that it basically takes the ITC of okay, the first floor you can't see through, and it's just like no, that whole fucking thing you cannot see through.
Right, and some people are already upset because their example is a knight, trying to shoot at somebody that it can obviously see over the terrain
Yeah.
piece, because if it's more than 5 inches, it's like fourth edition where it's infinitely high.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, it's weird because I mean, part of that I don't know if it's in the rule book anywhere about how you draw line of sight because the way that they're talking about in the terrain is you're drawing line of sight from the base,
Yeah.
right? Like not from actually the model, although that seems counter to what they've been doing. So it
Right.
seems weird that right, a knight can physically look over the building but can't shoot
Yeah.
anything behind it.
It's almost like it's almost like the same problem of when they couldn't fight someone on the second floor.
Well,
Right.
here's the thing: they can easily solve this though by saying because they have a whole section talking about knights and aircraft, right? So they say aircraft models with wounds characteristic of 18 or more are visible and
Right.
can be targeted.
Yes.
All they have to do is add one sentence at the end of that saying, in addition, aircraft and models with 18 wounds or more can target models, across the terrain, provided that they have natural line of sight or that they're, taller than 5 inches or something. Like they make any kind of
Yeah,
copy
but
of
Well,
it.
that completely negates the point of it for the
yeah.
most part, right? Like it really the
Well,
aircraft is funny because I'm like, man, that building's infinitely high. I'm flying I'm flying 20,000 feet up and I can't see over it.
well, but that's the thing, right? It's like I thought. See, when I read this rule initially, I thought it was geared more to infantry and tanks. So infantry and tanks, and like we have this, like you've got your terrain here, or you got your terrain here, and you've got an infantry and tank push. You have to go around to get to the infantry behind there. And I thought the reason they were doing that is because they didn't want people to feel like they had to cram their entire army into a single terrain piece, and rather, or like they had to like fight an edge and deploy. It made deploying take forever just to make sure like, oh, can you see it? Okay, that's good. But now if it's like, oh, it's just anywhere between that line, I'm good. I don't even have to worry about it.
Well, it creates huge dead zones, right? Like in firing lines, which is good for melee, right? Like that's not inherently
Yeah.
bad. It's definitely. I mean, it seems like it's a kind of a kick in the nuts to knights, though, of like, hey, fuck you, right?
Right.
I mean, but like some people have been saying, we don't have all the rules. We can't see what benefits they might get, and we don't know what the point adjustments are.
Yeah, we don't.
That's
Yeah.
that's going to be the big thing, right? Because there's going to I mean, the way that they can do stealth, essentially nerfs and buffs, is like, oh, hey, assault centurions. Let's say the baseline is 20%, like it's been thrown around or whatever it was for
Right.
the intercessor, right? Like,
Mhm.
um, let's say across the board the average 20%. Assault centurions, what if they get bumped up 80%, 60%,
Yeah.
right? Like
Hmm.
that helps nerf them. Meanwhile, what if knights only get buffed up 5 or 10%? Right, so that's actually a stealth buff, right?
Yeah.
Like because they're not scaling in cost the same way other people are. So
Right.
we won't know until we see the points
Yeah.
at all because I'd
Yeah.
still
Because
like to see 5 knights at 2,000, right? Like if you're gonna play, if you're forced into pure knights, that's like
well,
you
that's what
want
I
to be
mean.
able to
So
bring some noise.
Yeah.
yeah. So if you are forced to do that, they may not adjust it as much because they still want you to bring an all night army, especially if everybody starts with the same amount of CPs.
Not to mention
Oh
which
yeah,
too, they've made it very clear from the detachment rules we've seen that they're pushing for people to be pure faction, or at least really rewarding people for being that way.
yeah. It's more punishing, I think, because since everybody has a set amount of CPs, right, and then you
Mhm.
spend CPs to get extra detachments. That very much is a it basically is if you don't take a single brigade or battalion or whatever, we are going to punish you for doing that.
Yeah.
right? Like because you are spending a resource, not gaining a resource, right? So if it was, you know, like, oh, if you only take a brigade and everything's the same, blah blah blah, you get X, Y, and Z, right? That's rewarding it. This is
Yeah.
actually
Right. Yeah.
punishing
Uh,
you for
Bo-
taking.
Born Again Manchild makes a good point where these people that are complaining
First
about,
off, great handle.
these people are complaining about how the knight can't see all of a sudden, but uh, I mean, knights have a 12-inch movement, and if you're house Raven, you have that plus your advance. Why are you standing where you can't quote unquote see the model when you can easily just go around the terrain piece?
Right, that's the thing. You can, I mean, you can flank around. The board is, I mean, if we're playing minimum size, the board is smaller, so your 12-inch move is proportionally much larger, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
lot easier to move around the board. And yeah, like if you're just sitting there in like stuck in front of a building like a Roomba that doesn't know how to turn, then that's kind of your own fault.
Oh man,
Oh my
there
god.
are gonna be people who play games completely unknowing that they are behaving in that manner too.
That's not my fault. But yeah, the obscuring thing, I mean, it really, what's funny is it kills magic boxes in one ways because now it's like, oh, which is good because before
Yeah.
you have a magic box, I throw my hive guard in there. Cool. Unless you can get to my hive guard, they sit completely protected and just rain down death, except against, you know, out of LOS stuff. Now, if I want to do that, I have to hide them out behind the terrain,
Which means
right?
easier to
Which
get to.
means a fast unit can flank and get line of sight and gun them down. So I think that's actually a net positive for the game by getting rid of the magic box style thing, where if you're in the terrain, you can be seen and shot.
Right.
You can't just like hide.
The
Someone's
old
at my
first
door. What the
floor. Hold
fuck?
on. All right. Well, while Danny deals with whoever's at his front door, um, but the old first floor rule like is not in effect if you're inside the train. That's more or less gone.
Yeah.
Frontline has already said that they're going to use the rule set as is, along with missions in their events. So a lot of places will probably do the same
Hmm.
for those that have for those that are wondering. So that's terrain. Next
Yeah.
thing they talked about was and we won't be able to cover everything. We'll just cover like the major points in
The big
case you haven't
stuff.
noticed. Although it does seem like we're covering everything. But
Well, that
the
was
ne-
most recent too, and I think there's a lot of
right.
confusion surrounding that, so it made sense we spent more time on it.
Well, in regards to the terrain, we may as well mention the table size at this point, where
Oh yeah.
because apparently that seems to have caused a bit of a controversy. So that the initial size, which was 44 by 60 for a strike force size,
Which is 2,000 points.
um,
Yeah.
yes, that's 2,000 points.
Or is it incursion? I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's strike force.
Incursion, I think,
Incursion,
is
I it's
3,000.
three. Yeah, I think it's this 3,000. So the big three have already stated that they're going to be using this, even though it's the quote unquote minimum. They're still going to use this size because that's the size that the game was play tested on.
So they're using the less
They're
than
using
6.
the 44 by 60.
Oh, interesting.
And what that means is you're going to have a lot of tournaments. I know I'm probably going to do it for mine only because I don't have any. I only have like 5 mats anyway.
Yeah.
Um, we'll probably switch to that. If you already have mats, it's not that big of a deal to tape it off. It's just a lot, a bit of work.
Well, and that's the thing,
Um,
right? Like nobody loses by having the 6x4, even the mats, because you tape it off, and even the 6x4 tables. Now you're just giving the players more real estate to put their cards and dice.
Right, exactly. That
right.
becomes, I think Jim Vessel said it in a thread somewhere, if that becomes the beer deployment zone.
Yes.
Very, very well put.
And as I talked to Tom about, I think it was yesterday. If you spill something on it, it's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Just it has that smell, but other than that, you didn't like ruin it or anything like that.
Oh yeah.
Um, and the other thing is, if you have other systems or you play other games, you can still use the mat for those games. If you only play 40K, I guess you can cut the mat. I personally wouldn't.
I think that would be a waste.
But then I also play other game systems that could utilize the mats.
I think if you're a TO and your main event is 40K, it makes sense to cut the mats because then theoretically you can increase how many people your space holds because you're shrinking the size of the tables.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if that actually logistically works because it would depend on what tables you have underneath, right, and the boards and all of that. But, I could kind of see maybe if you were a really big tournament and you were growing, but like especially now with the whole Rona and just the way everything is this year, I probably wouldn't cut any mats until it's very well established that the majority of people want to play on minimum.
Yeah, I guarantee you right now, anybody who plays an assault army wants to play on minimum.
Oh yeah, it's like my world eaters are like,
Yeah.
fuck yes, please.
Yeah. I think we're gonna try to have Hammer Wrath, and it might be at the Pasadena Convention Center. But no matter where it's at, I think I'm probably just gonna go with the minimum because I don't have that many mats. I have like I said 5 mats. So
Minimum champion.
the minimum champion. That's what it is.
Just get a bunch of fabric and get a good fabric cutter and just start making cutouts.
Ooh.
So moving on to vehicles and monsters, they've talked about a few things.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things was big guns never tire, which is basically they ignore the -1 to hit when they move.
Which is huge. It's huge.
Which
Well, that
well, it only infantry are affected by it,
Right.
so it doesn't just boost vehicles.
boost
Think about it.
bikes,
Battle suits.
battle suits, right?
Tau Riptides are very happy with that.
Yeah, because it's only if infantry. The thing about them being able to shoot into combat unless it's a blast weapon.
That's cool. That makes any monster any monster vehicle that has either a lot of guns or short range like flamer things like flamer sponsons on Lehman Russes could actually be useful.
Or hellhounds.
Or hellhounds.
Yeah, hellhounds for sure. Like, man, if you don't kill that thing on the charge,
or
it'd be bad times.
Or even a Gatling on a knight, just like, oh, I'm still in combat. Like I don't know. That's the first thing I thought of.
How's it go?
It goes.
Yeah, no, I was thinking,
obviously you're not an orc player.
Oh yeah, sorry. Deka.
I was thinking with like Tyranids of like the Carnifexes with the double
old DAC effects.
Yeah, the old DAC effects. But instead of giving them enhanced senses for the BS3 plus, you give them acid maws, so they're strength 6, AP -5, D3 damage. So you can just shoot into combat and still fight. So it's like whether you're going up against infantry or like Marines, you're like, fuck you.
Dios mío.
And of course, my Tyrannifexes, man, they got that auto hitting 2d6 flamer.
Well, that's the other thing. So with the new blast rule, for those that don't know, and they actually gave the numbers as to what's considered a horde. So if there's 6 or more models, it's minimum of 3.
Yes, that was another big thing. Yeah.
There's a little confusion as to whether it's 3 on each die or is it 3 for the total roll, which I think it's the latter.
I think so too. I was talking to our buddy Colin, or our teammate Colin, about it, and Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
What?
No. Anywho,
is that
Colin?
Anyway,
no. Anyway,
so,
yes, I was confused.
So there's a bit of confusion about that. So we don't. I'm pretty sure it's 3 across the board. The max minimum is 3.
Yeah.
And they actually mentioned the Shadow Sword gun, the laser destructor, I guess, is a blast weapon. so imagine minimum of 3. So a D3 would automatically get 3 no matter what. 2d6 would be a minimum of 3, and 3d3 on the laser destructor would be a minimum of 3.
Yeah.
Now, if it's 11 or more, then it's auto max basically.
Essentially, yes.
Or it's just maximum amount of shots, not hits, which is unless it's a flamer weapon, which is a big distinction. So you still have to roll to hit. You just get the maximum number of shots.
Yeah. Do not roll dice to randomly determine how many attacks are made. Instead, make the maximum possible number of attacks.
So for something like the Shadow Sword gun, the Volcano Cannon, it's 3d3, so you'd get the max, which is 9.
I love how they followed that picture up with 4 basilisks.
Oh my god. I'm assuming the Wyverns is blast, so that's 4d6. That's
I
24 auto shots.
well, no, wyverns are 43. So
Is it 43?
I think they're 12. Yeah, they're 12.
No, it's 46.
Is it 40? Are wyverns 46?
It's 46. Wyverns are 46.
That's stupid.
What if
Because I used to use it.
Oh,
I used
God.
to roll like,
Thunderfire cannons. Oh, God.
oh my god,
Not like
Thunderfire cannons
not like this.
with that stupid
It's
strat.
like, hey, weren't Thunderfire cannons too good in the last edition? Yeah.
let's make it better.
Double it. Take it and double it.
They didn't put out a
So-
list of blast weapons, did they?
They did not.
No, not yet.
They haven't. But they talked. What the ones they talked about were the Shadow Sword. I always forget the name for Volcano Cannon.
Mhm.
They talked about basically the Lehman Russ, and they talked about. I believe they talked about Flamers. I can't remember.
They also said Barb Strangler, Death Strike.
The Death Strike. Yes.
D
Oh my God,
cannon.
people actually use it.
I know, right? Well,
Will they? Will they?
Yeah, the D cannons, Squig, which is actually good for our Wraith Knights.
Hey.
Squig launches
And the Squig launchers. Yes.
and then Phlegm Bombardment. I don't know. What
that's
Oh,
that's
the-
from the Soul Grinder.
Yeah.
Oh.
When's the last time you saw a Soul Grinder?
You know what? Not since. I mean, I'm even thinking fucking
edition?
Age of Sigmar. Not even seventh. I don't even remember seventh. I don't know, but
were they
you know what you'll see more. You know what I have sitting in boxes that I have to put together? 3 defilers.
Yeah, fuck yeah, Defilers. I've been telling you to run Defilers since the
I know.
book
Now-
came. The other book came
Now
out.
that is
I
a
have to put 'em
name I
together.
have not heard in a long time.
Yeah. So the blast, and you can't use the blast in close combat. What you can do though, apparently, is target something outside of the close combat. Target everything else who you're in close combat with or in engagement range with, which is I think a AOS term, I believe.
Yeah.
However,
And so,
there
but
is-
you need to clear out. You need to clear them out. If someone's still within an inch, you can't shoot that blast weapon.
right. So if you can shoot yourself out of combat, you can still fire the rest of your guns. But if not,
Right.
sucks to be you.
Seems good.
Her-
I can't remember what else. That was and apparently grenades are blast weapons.
yeah.
All those strats that let you throw a shit ton of grenades.
Yes, so I know Imperial Guard. Astra Militarum has a strat.
So
I've
Death
seen the
Guard.
strat.
Death Guard. Oh my god.
Can orcs do it too?
Yeah, they can throw. I think it's a lava strat or something like that.
Or stick bombs or something like that?
Oh, I
Yeah.
think it's stick bombs, but I don't know if it's it might be unit specific, because that's a lot of stick bombs.
Hey, you know.
But remember the stick bomb unit from 3rd edition
Oh yeah.
that nobody ever bought.
Yeah.
I bought it just because I needed more boys, and they didn't have it. They were out of stock. Because all it was a unit of boys with a metal backpack that had stick bombs in it, and that was it.
Good times.
Yes. So, Forge Fiends is another one that probably will get blast because they have
Mm-hmm.
I forget which gun, the ectoplasm, I think it
Ectoplasm
is.
cannon or something like that.
Yeah, they'll probably get blast. I would not be surprised if Wyverns are gonna wreck. Imperial Guard got a big boost on this one.
They really did, and Wyverns were really good in 7th too. I remember even because 7th had blast templates, but part of the reason that they were really good was the amount of them that they got, which translated well to dice, and also just like
Well, with
size.
the artillery battery detachment,
they got good again. Yeah.
And then I have enough chimeras. I'm probably going to build an armored company basically.
Yeah.
I have enough Lehman
Steel
Russes.
Legion.
Steel Legion.
You know what? I may go Renegades and Heretics.
You say that like you aren't really set on the idea already. Like,
Well, I don't. I have the models for both.
you're,
I have the
you're-
models for Steel Legion, and I have the models for Renegades and Heretics.
What is it? It's like that Family Guy joke. It's like you're acting like a fat guy pretending he's not going to have dessert. He's like, you know what? Yeah, let me look at the menu. I might get something. I don't know.
I mean, I don't have enough to do both, so I would have to commit to one.
Oh no, commit. Adam's greatest fear.
Commitment? Yeah, but I'm not. Well, wait, I have to see where my wife is at. Or make any comments.
What you could do is you could make them look like really raggedy Steel Legion, like So they're either loyalists that are fighting to their last breath, or they're loyalists who are like, yeah, chaos, fuck this bitch,
Yeah.
So,
Undercover loyalist. So we'll see. I
Siege
mean,
of Terra.
the renegades and heretics still don't have stratagems, but I think some of these rules might help them a little bit. At
And-
least with vehicles.
And at the end of the day, we're gonna get an army in ninth. There's gonna be some new faction that comes out in ninth.
They'll probably get. Well, they did mention don't look under the tree in December, and so we can just speculate on what that means. But
I
in
feel
any
like
case,
that means like a new Primarch.
That means what?
maybe a new
A
Primarch.
new Primarch.
Oh,
That's my guess.
yeah. I could see there being a new one there because they do like to end the year in a bang. Although, you could always speculate: is it going to be the Lion? Is it going to be Jagati? Or are they going to do the wombo combo of Fulgrim and Angron? Because Fulgrim and Angron, they've been mentioning in.
That's way too many Trader Primarchs.
I'm fine with this.
I am too.
But here's the
I,
thing: if they do Fulgrim and Angron, then they finally have the four different Chaos God Primarchs, and then they're done.
Yes.
And then at that point, everything can be hunky dory, loyalist land again, because that's what happens, right? They release a bunch of sweet shit for Chaos, and Chaos players are happy for about 2 months, and then it's like 8 months of
2
loyalist
months.
stuff.
2 seconds once the rules come out for them.
Yeah, fair point.
So they got that bonus. They don't suffer the -1 for shooting. They mentioned that the machine spirit for land raiders would get a different rule, because the rule for land raiders is that they don't suffer the -1 for
Moving.
-1 for moving. So we'll see. It actually brings things like the Redeemer and the Crusader semi-viable.
Yeah.
Depending how, but
we'll
have to see.
Well, for Tau, this happened in 8th, by the way, where war gear became completely pointless when the new edition shifted, and this is happening again. So Tau have this thing called target lock, which is war gear that lets you ignore the heavy penalty. Which nothing that can take target lock is an infantry unit.
Yeah. So we'll just have to see what comes of it. Was there anything else, Danny or Tom, that you remember?
About not that I can think
About
of.
tanks and monsters. They didn't clarify about fighting stuff on different levels.
Not yet.
Yeah, that hasn't
Unfortunately.
been brought up.
They've mentioned in the streams that they've thought about it. Like they've made it very clear, like, we've thought about these weird things, and they even specifically said like hitting people on levels, but they didn't say what they did with it. So we know it.
Yeah, they didn't say how they solved it.
Exactly.
They just said they're able to fight,
or how they think they
on
solved it.
Well, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, I will too.
So we'll have to see what comes up. Hopefully they'll give us more info. I don't believe we talked about the command points in depth. We mentioned the new command point system, but one of the things they showcased was how each detachment costs X amount of command points, but wherever your warlord goes into you're refunded those command points, so that detachment's actually free. And the example they use is the Battleforge one that we're all the battalion that we're all used to, which is 3 command points to purchase, but if your warlord's in it, you get those 3 command points back. So,
like I said, I just think of The Simpsons with when Homer's in Japan and on the game show, but just reversing of like in 8th edition, you reward purity. In 9th edition, we punish diversity.
that's
right. Like it's
how
just
it is.
Yeah, it's very much here's some command points. Would you like to have additional detachments? Would you like to have allies?
Mhm.
Then you suffer for it, right?
Right.
Right.
Which I'm not
so-
inherently against. I just think it's funny they went from a rewarding you system to being pure to punishing you if you're not.
Well, look what happens when they dangle the carrot. Now they have to use the stick.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Floggings will continue until morale improves.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what the other formations cost and how they have changed, because they could have changed.
Yeah.
A lot of people noticed that the transports, you only get transports for each infantry squad that you buy.
Yeah, that's a big deal for Dark Eldar and for Eldar player, or I think at least Dark Eldar players who try basically would just Venom spam.
Right. So you buy a Raider and you get a Venom as its quote unquote transport.
Yeah, exactly. But now
Things like that.
yeah, but that limits that kind of a build now. So it's it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see like what other armies are affected. I don't think too much else is really. Because I don't think too many other armies that were spamming transports didn't already support the troops for them. Like, for example, Master Militarum or Space Marines. If you're bringing transports, you generally had enough infantry to cover that anyway.
Right. I mean, there were times you could have bought HQs, which was just one model, and they would get the transports that way, especially if they were running Razorbacks.
Yeah, that's true.
The last thing, or is there anything else, Tom?
For no, just that basically, like certain armies really are very happy with the command point rework in terms of how many you get. Like armies that were very CP hungry, like knights, custodes especially. They're literally the featured image for that article.
Oh yeah. With their gold and gold on gold on gold.
Yeah, gold on gold.
Yes.
I heard you like gold, dog, so I gave you gold, so you can gold while you're gold on gold. But like I'm sure there's other factions I'm not thinking of that also would benefit just highly from it. Not to mention which it's like, did they give the starting number of command points that you get in the very beginning? It's like, yeah. So a game.
It's 12.
It's 12
for yeah.
I mean, like my Grey Knight.
12 for 2,000 points.
So like my Grey Knight army right there and then, like my Grey Knight army right now starts with 7, and it after relic before relics it's 9. Now now you're telling me it's 10? That's amazing. Like I'm totally happy with that.
We can talk about the missions real quick for those that haven't seen the one mission they previewed, and they did talk about some of the secondaries and things like that. It's very very briefly. If you've played ITC or even Nova missions, that's more or less what the GW missions are. It looks like a combination of the two.
Mm-hmm. They also made a big point about saying that there are missions that are based on game size now too. So combat patrol, for example, is a smallish game. It has a limited number of detachments. It has the smallest board possible, but it has its own set of 6 missions. And so it's actually kind of really impressive to see that they've really gone to take the time to say, no matter what game mode you're playing, we're supporting it. And that was something they really focused on in the Twitch episodes too, or in the dailies, is that they were very conscientious of really rewarding narrative players and match players, like play players at the same time, like kind of keeping them both up to what they were doing, and what they want. I don't know I know a little bit about Crusade, for example, but like people freaking out about Crusade. From what I understand.
Well, Crusade seems that, and Danny could speak better because he had more experience. It seems similar to Warcry from what they've been describing.
Mm-hmm.
On how Warcry works.
Right.
So if you're familiar with Warcry, then you'll probably be familiar with Crusade. But Crusade almost seems like, and for those that have played Path of Glory, which was basically almost like a chaos campaign, as your players and models progress, they get these bonuses and these basically detriments in case they die or whatever. So, and that's more for. It seems like they're putting more focus on the narrative side of the hobby in this edition. When in the 8th edition, it seemed to be more focused on the competitive side and things they do and give to everybody. But this time, it looks like they're making a serious push on for the narrative side, which is why they created this whole Crusade thing, especially for narrative gaming at events.
Yeah,
going from game to game, and especially from day 1 to day 2. It might be something that people might look into if you're running a narrative event at your convention or tournament.
Well, and even too, right? Like this offers also like a lot of flexibility for competitive match tournaments and how they want to be designed. So, for example, like in 8th edition, the 2 different kinds of competitive play you could see were: are you using points or are you using like power level? Sure, you
Nobody
could
uses Barlow.
exactly. So you could make there were the time you saw like the RTT of like 1,500 points, you guys like, but it didn't really. I don't know. It felt like big so what. Like now it seems like they're really encouraging that you can actually have different levels or sizes of competitive events as well. And I don't know if that'll take or not. Like that could be just whether or not people enjoy it or like it. But but the fact that they're like saying, "Hey, this is here," that I mean, it's always better to have more options than not at the very least.
Some people are already gaming that system because they're saying, well, how about we play a 2000? I think it was a 2000 plus one tournament because they want the 18 command points, which is
Oh
two
God, yeah, okay, that's
instead of the just the 12, which is funny because they used to do that in fantasy where they would play 1999 points plus one because there were changes to composition when you played a 2000 point game.
at the
So
end.
to limit that composition, they played 1999 plus one. So it was really 2000, but you used the limitations from a under 2000 army as opposed to the 2000 or more limitations.
Axis makes a good point
They're
though. He says if you do a 2001 point game, you need a 90-inch table by the
Oh
rules.
yeah, because the size because the size increases with the onslaught or whatever the largest
Yeah.
version is.
So, but yeah, I mean,
Then you don't have to cut your mats.
yeah, there you go.
Oh
Now,
no, I think it still no. It says it stays 44.
oh, does it? Yeah, it does. Oh yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
45 by 90. Yeah,
I'm here, but I'm feeding a baby, by the way.
no worries.
That's all right. But we were just talking about the missions.
Let's see. Yeah, we kind of wrapped that up a bit. Um, I think
So
now.
Danny or Tom, do you want to talk about Psychic Awakening since you're the one that actually paid attention to that?
Yeah, sure. All right, so I'll go in order of what actually came out. I think. Oh, good. They do have dates on the top of the articles. Yay! So the Death Guard was one of the first ones we saw, and kind of like all Psychic Awakening reveals, they give you like tidbits. And the three they've done so far are Death Guard Creations of Bile, which is a new Chaos Space Marine faction, technically.
Right.
And then the Imperial rules, specifically for the Talons of the Emperor and the Assassins. But starting with Death Guard, one thing they're kind of pushing is customization within a faction to kind of like it make you feel like, well, yeah, sure, I'm only playing one faction, but I get to still kind of play it my way because they've now mentioned the 7 Plague Companies. So there's so like for Death Guard, there's the 7 Plague Companies. Children of Bile, you're already a unique element of Chaos Space Marine. So there you go. And then the Imperium now have, like, for example, for the Custodes, they have shield companies. So, like, you can actually have Shadow Wardens instead of being your color scheme, which is what I have for mine, actually. You could have it be an actual rule set you use. So the same kind of thing we've seen with other Psychic Awakening stuff. For Death Guard specifically, one of the biggest things that came out to me was this new relic called the Demon's Toll, and it's for the Noxious Blightbringer Plague Company. So Noxious Blightbringer, I swear, whoever wrote the names for Death Guard must have loved like tongue twisters, because like there's sometimes I'm just like
like the Sloppity Bile Piper.
Sloppity Bile Piper. So a Noxious Blightbringer model only. Models in friendly Death Guard units, which is interesting. So it doesn't matter if they're from other plague companies. It's just if they're Death Guard.
But it said friendly, right?
Yes, in friendly Death Guard units. So
So if you're playing against another Death Guard player, they're not going to benefit.
Exactly. Excluding Chaos Cultists and Poxwalkers, have a 5-up invulnerable save while they're within 7 inches of a model from your army with this relic, which is huge. And the reason
so they have a 3-up, 5-up, 5-up.
They have a 3-up and a 5-up and a 5-up, and that is disgusting. And like anyone who's ever played, I mean, a lot of the Death Guard, I think, for the most part, really, like, you could only really get them to a 5-up consistently, depending upon what army you're running. But like,
right
now that's a guaranteed 5-up, so they can't get forced into their Feel No Pain, and that's a 5-up. Oh, just like that is already going to make them just more insanely durable. like if Necrons weren't getting a new codex, they'd be like, Death Guard, like God.
Well, we'll see what happens when they get their codex.
Yeah. Everything else, it's got some interesting strats. You know, I recommend you go look at it for yourself. There's one that's interesting where there's a Harbinger's Plague Company, and you take their Poxwalkers, and for 1 for 1 or 3 for 2, you could basically deep strike Poxwalkers, which is a big deal. Because one of their biggest things is they're so super slow. But that's pretty much it for Death Guard.
And they have warlord traits and all that stuff for all 7 plague companies, right?
Yeah, so with each plague company or shield company, or in Bile's case, his own thing, you get a warlord trait, a relic, and a special.
Just one.
I think there's a special. I don't know if there's a special.
But just one for each.
One for each.
That's
I
still
think
a
it's
lot.
I think it's a psychic power for Death Guard. I have to go back and look. I can't remember. But
I mean, that's still a lot.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what they've been doing with like what is it? Like they did it with Thousand Suns with the different Rubik clans.
Oh, okay.
They did it with the Jakari with the different clans of Kamara, I thought, or the different covens. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember the exact specifics, but anywho, Fabius Bile, their whole thing is like basically just buffing stats. So
yeah,
like,
I saw that.
Yeah. So for example, everybody that's a Children of Bile gets +1 to their movement and strength, which is significant. You know, 7-inch moving, Chaos Space Marines at strength 5. It's pretty good. They get a refund relic. They also have something that lets them advance and charge, excluding cultists. They also have something that reduces the leadership, which is a big deal, especially considering we talked, I think, earlier in the pre-show. We noticed that modifiers, specifically for a unit's stats or like to hit or to wound rolls, seem to have this new cap that has been mentioned above. You can't go more than +1 or -1, but leadership and psychic tests you can still bring down a lot. So like we'll go into this in the Talons of the Emperor actually, but like you can still get like -3 to a psychic test, which is like still a big deal.
Yeah, I think the +1 -1 is just for shooting, but I mean we'll know once we get the rules.
Yeah. Like so like if you're a Chaos Space Marine player, like Children of Bile looks interesting. Could be like maybe it's a detachment you bring, maybe it's like the whole thing, depending upon what they didn't tell us. Because GW has a habit of every now and then not showing the golden gem of an army. So
yes.
So we'll see.
They don't see it the way other players see it, especially competitive players.
Speaking of golden gems, brings us to the Adeptus Custodes, my golden boys. one of my favorite bandwagon armies that I've done. Although I kind of was late on that, so I don't know if it was really a bandwagon. Anywho,
I don't remember.
Yeah, when I built it, I built it in 2018. No, it was a bandwagon army. I just took forever to do it. So, they have shield companies now. So like, you get special rules and abilities and relics for being a part of the Shadow Wardens. You get something for being an Emissaries and Periatus, the custodes who actually protect dignitaries and act as. And then you have the what is it, like the Messengers one? I think that might have actually been the Imperior Emissaris. But one of the big ones for me was Fraternity of Heroes, and this is for all custodes. You get if basically for 1 CP, any custodes unit you have can perform a heroic intervention as if it were a character, and it has to finish 1-inch move. Now, custodes already have a warlord trait that lets everyone within 6 inches of the warlord do this, and I think they actually can do it better because I think they get like maybe they get like the Space Wolf 6-inch heroic. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But the big deal here is that, as amazing as that is, there are a host of other really good warlord traits for an Adeptus Custodes warlord. The Fraternity of Heroes, though, like really just adds some punch to your army, because now it's not even a unit that has to be near your warlord. It's just any unit. And half the time, whenever you're doing this, I think, you really just need that one unit. like you need that one kind of unit to be able to get in and heroically intervene. And so that's why I think this is actually amazing stratagem to have right now, especially considering like what is it? Adeptus Custodes are very, very, very good at melee, like stupid good. And it allows.
Farsight says it's 12 inches.
Let's see. Oh, see, that's pretty good. I do want to be in a frat, Jeff. Is there anything wrong with that?
I had when I was in college, I had no compulsion to be in a frat.
I had zero either. The closest, yeah. I was just like, okay, find your friends, hang out with them. Like I didn't care about being in a frat.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Had I gone to the right school, I probably would have cared. But the school I went to didn't have them, so I didn't care. I am a subject of my upbringing.
It's called a seminary, Tom.
Hey, well, I ain't no priest. All right.
I know, because you didn't join the frat.
I see where you're going there. All right, so then with the shield companies, what's interesting is that you actually now you can spend CP to basically make your warlord a super warlord. And the way they put it is that you can have a Lord of the Shield hosts.
Oh, yeah.
So for just a single command point, it allows you to personalize your leader by giving them a captor commander trait. So the way this is worded, I'm assuming it's in addition to their warlord trait.
Mm-hmm.
And the two that they previewed are 2 wounds to the 2 to the wounds characteristic of the model, which is insane. Is so like for a Custodes captain is so good, especially if
Does he already have like 5 or 6?
They have 6. If it's a bike captain, he has 7. So now a 9 wound bike captain, that's like
Oh, right.
God.
It's a Primar.
yeah. He's like, "Sup, Killerman? I'm cooler than you, and I got this sweet ass bike. I'm Jagati, motherfucker." And so the other one actually, I'm sure there's a number of them. It can't be just more than like 3 or 4. But like the second one they preview is if you're within a unit that contains 6 or more models, which is interesting. Doesn't mean you have to attack that unit. You get +2 attacks. And most shield captains have 4 to 5. So now you're talking about 6 to 7. And with their melee weapons, those are really good. So it's like, oh, damn. And then I'm not going to go too much into because, just for sake of time and keeping things. I'm not going to. Yeah, Null Maidens, if you like Null Maidens, great. The coolest thing that they really kind of shown is that thanks to their Talons of the Emperor rule, the Sisters of Silence could be added into any Adeptus Custodes army. So you don't have to worry about making a pure Null Maidens attachment. You can. They have rules for it. But now, basically, if you're a Custodes player, you can throw in Sisters for free, which is huge. Like, if you really want to diversify into that anti-psyker gameplay.
Free points or just
bodies?
Say that again, Adam?
Free points?
Free point? No. It's not free points. It's more.
You said for free, so.
Well, what I mean is not for another detachment.
Okay.
Yeah, because as Danny was saying earlier, you want to get a second detachment, it's going to cost you. So I'm going along those lines of it.
Real quick, Jeff from Burbank wants to know your opinions on Boba. I personally am not a fan.
Boba Tea?
I'm assuming.
If it's Boba Tea, then I like it maybe once a year, and then I don't care about it. Like I'll be like, oh yeah, I could go for it.
Like at Christmas time, or
no, like just like if someone offered me Boba once a month, every year, throughout the year, one of those months I'd be like, yeah, sure. Every other month, I'd be like, no, I'm good, thanks.
I'm not a fan.
I don't like tapioca.
Whoa.
If it's Boba Fett, then
everyone loves the Fett.
Everyone, yes. I mean, no matter how sure I am, I never bet the Fett Man. I'll bet you all my Star Wars models, but I'll never bet the Fett Man.
I did think he meant Boba Fett at first. I'm not gonna
lie. The last thing for this, and it wraps up everything we know about Psychic Awakening until tomorrow, when I'm assuming they're going to give us the Sisters stuff, is for the Officio Assassinorum.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one strat that confused me, and it was a zero CP strat saying use this. It's called Priority Threat Neutralized. Use it in any phase when a character model in an enemy unit. Wait, what? When a character model in
it just gives you CP for killing characters.
But we already had that.
Yeah, but it cost 1 CP before.
Now it costs 2
just 0.
or 0.
Now it costs 0.
But now is this a different or is this an update? That's my question. I haven't looked.
If it's named the same, I would call it an update.
If it's not named the same, then
Well, I guess it's 2 ways of getting extra CPs.
Well, and it means that you're getting 2 CP in a phase when you kill a person, when you kill a character. So if you've got assassins, that could be like a
if
CP
it's if
battery.
if they're named differently, then yes.
Here, I'm gonna do some snooping in a minute, but
If they're named the same, then no.
yeah, the other big thing about the Officio one is that they've made it so you for a 2 CP, you can swap whatever assassin you have in your list for something else, and it doesn't cost
Ooh.
reinforcement points. If your army
Pretty good.
includes exactly 1 assassinorum unit, remove that unit from your army and add 1 unit of your choice. This is not removed as being destroyed or removed from play for any rules purposes. However, unlike other units that are added to your army, this new unit does not cost any reinforcement points even in a match play game. So it's like, I normally run with a Vindicare. Oh wait, I'm playing Orcs? 2 CP to swap that to an Eviscer.
Right.
So
Pretty good.
pretty good, but I
I don't know if it's worth 2 CPs.
I don't know if it's worth 2 CPs, especially considering isn't 2 CPs just to bring 1 by himself anyway?
That's if you don't include them in your list.
Right. So if you don't include them in your list, but like
But if you're using the Pokeball assassin, then you get to pick which one anyway.
yeah, that's true.
What
So
what they're saying is, if you already have one in the army,
right, but how do
like
you have one in the army if you don't have it in its own detachment, or can they join in a detachment now?
right now
Oh,
they can be their own detachment. We'll have
oh
to see what it looks like.
no, what is it? They have a rule. They have an inkling to a rule. They can be added to any Imperial army.
Oh, there you go.
So I think they gave assassins the sisters treatment, except
Yes,
where sisters can go to custodes, assassins can now go to anybody,
any army.
which is still actually consistent with how they've worded the Marine rules, because Marines you can just throw somebody in there, and kind of like like the Inquisitors, you can throw them in there and they don't cost a slot,
Right.
but then you still lose your benefits. I think yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. You can just throw an assassin in, or you can have an assassin in your list. Yeah, because I remember now. It's the rule. I think the rule is you can only have 1 assassin in your Imperium list. As is, if you want more than 1, you have to get a detachment onto its own.
Okay.
I think that's what
Anything?
it
Is that it? Anything else? Anything noteworthy?
was. Nope. Tom's talking time is done.
God.
Praise be.
Praise.
So the other
Praise
subject, the other quick subject, and that I want to really talk about is basically the
This
transition.
This is what your sad comments do to me.
Oh my God, Tom! Is basically the transitioning from one edition to the next. Now, for a lot of players who have started in 8th, and this is their only edition they've played, this is something new. For others, like basically all 3 of us, this is not something new, and for some of us, it's happened 7 times now. um, but it's different from a player's perspective and from a TO or a judge perspective. Uh, from a player's perspective, it's kind of like what you see now. It's a lot of guesswork and a lot of what does this mean? What does this do? Oh my God, this is horrible because you don't have the full picture. And that's if they let you know what's going on. In the past, they really haven't really told us anything except, hey, there's a new edition coming out next month. Danny, I mean, you remember those
Oh
early
yeah, no, I was
days?
just just the fun of like the White Dwarf of being like, hey, well, guess what?
Yeah.
We've got a new edition, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you get it and you're like, wow, okay, well, now I got to totally learn all of these rules because they're all new to me.
I feel like
Yeah.
It was a good time.
I feel like there will be like some experience lost insofar as like I started at the end of 6th into 7th and then started 8th. So I learned all the 6 rules kind of, and then 7th I was corrected about a bunch of stuff because I didn't see all the changes that were made. And then 8th I was like, this rule book is only 5 pages long.
Yeah.
I am confused by simplicity. So I think transitioning in this edition, if you've started in 7th, will actually not be too hard. If you've, or I'm sorry, started in 8th. If you started anywhere previous to 8th, it should not be hard at all.
No, but what I'm saying is some of the experiences and some what you might see, which especially once you start playing. So just expect a lot of edition-itis where how you start to do
Yeah.
things how they used to be and not
There,
how they should.
there's going to be a lot of the first like 2 months are a wild west of we don't know what the meta is, we don't know what works, and also we think we're playing ninth edition, but we're actually playing like some bastardized form of eighth because we're like, oh, this is the way this works, and it's like, no, if you read the rules, they actually change that.
Right.
So anyway, I
And
started blasting.
and it's kind of the same for the TO. As a TO, when a new edition comes around, you kind of want to know everything, especially if you have a tournament that's coming up like close to when the release date is. We don't know when the release date is, but a lot of people figure it's got to be fairly soon. So the no Nova just canceled, Shark Weekend canceled, unfortunately. So the next big event, at least in our area, is probably going to be Slaughterfest, and we don't know how close it's going to be to the actual release date of the new edition.
Yeah.
But as far as I can tell, if the new edition comes out before Slaughterfest weekend, which is the first weekend in August, then no matter how close or how late, whether it's next week or whether it's a week before, 2 weeks before, or tomorrow, they're still going to use that new set. So it'll be like for myself, who's judging Slaughterfest. Whenever I get that rule set, I got to actually read it and understand it as quickly as possible. And as most TOs should do, is at least read it at the very least.
So
um,
obviously, so obviously, reading the rule set's important, and like you said, you got to sit down and actually do the work. Aside from that, is there
right,
any?
and you may want to try to like with the hardcover rule that we looked at. I mean, I already saw it was causing confusion for some people, and that's what things you kind of have to look at when you're looking at the rule set. You don't need to pick it apart like a reading assignment,
Well,
but
and that's what I was going to ask you is like as I mean, is this essentially as an LVO judge, and for both of you really, is this your advice to any judge that's going to be part of the first rounds of ninth edition RTTs or GTs?
well, Danny, what do you think?
I mean, I think you just you need to write shit down. Meaning, like a lot of it's going to be, well, let's look in the rule book, guys,
Yeah.
because they probably were people who didn't actually read the rules and thought, oh, this is the way it works, and
Right.
but really, the big thing is in the early on is um, when you hear about things or you run into something like, man, I don't know how the interaction works, write it down and then share it with other TOs, share it to GW, right? Like, just there's going to be a lot of those little interactions that no matter how much playtesting they did, they're going to miss, right? And, you know, I think right now it's a lot easier thanks to the ITC and like the different TO groups that there are,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
there's going to be like, I bet you within the first few days, once we have real rules in front of us, there's going to be posts of, hey, how are you guys ruling it here? How are you ruling it here? And just like, if you're going to run an event, pay attention to that, right? Like
Yeah.
actually engage on those boards and see what people are bringing up so you can see the weird corner cases or the points of confusion that people have and be prepared for them. But I mean, like judging in general, it's just, especially 2 or 3 months into a new edition, except you're gonna fuck up. You're going to like
Right.
just make mistakes, and that's okay, right? That's just a big part of edition changes. It's you're going to make mistakes because you are still trying to process eighth edition and get this whole new edition into your mind, and probably not have a ton of guinea pigs and other states and other
Yeah.
other venues running into problems, you learning about them, being like, oh well, okay, now that's the correct answer now that I've had 3 days to think about it and discussion with 30 other people.
Not to mention which
Right.
there's the residual rust of not having been challenged in a certain way to think critically about these rules, and so you might find yourself coming back, even if it, let's say, was still eighth, and you think, wait, how did I what is this rule again? Like I like you kind of lose that edge of that practice. So, but if and I don't know if this is something that could be a question really, but let's say like you said, Danny, there's gonna be fuck ups. There's gonna be mistakes. Like, is there a way to give advice to err on the side of caution? Like, is there a way to do
All
that?
Yeah, always, if you don't know, always err on the side of the least powerful interpretation. And
Yeah.
that's generally been GW's kind of mantra in eighth, right? When it comes to FAQs, for the most part, is if there's any ambiguity, the least powerful answer is probably the one you want to go with,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's very rare where they go with the most powerful one.
Yeah,
No,
so
that makes sense. No, absolutely. Just was curious
yeah,
to
that's
see.
where you default. I mean, you can once you get it, like, you can study it, but it won't matter. I mean, you could literally cram that shit like you're taking the SATs again, but like you're gonna make mistakes. I think what's the best thing any TO can do the first time they run a tourney in ninth is to make sure they ask the questions they have after reading the rule book of like, hey, I want to make sure this works this way, right?
Right.
Ask the different TO groups, and then take notes. Like when you're running your event and you get stumped, write that question down so you know what to research and look at, right? Like
Yep.
the more of us who do that, the less we're going to run into it because we'll have a relatively comprehensive guide of, no, this is how this works. This is how,
Yeah,
we're running it, right? That general kind of consensus.
Yeah.
yeah, and most TOs at this point have a small group for their region anyway of other organizers that they can bounce the ideas off of. And if you don't, find one or even make one if you need to. Just reach out to the local areas.
Yep.
Anything else in regards to that? In regards as a player, especially also as well as a tournament organizer.
Well, for me as a player, all I can do is just give your opponent, and this is hilarious coming from me because what I will do to learn rules, and I was telling you, Adam, this earlier. I'm not going to be able to learn Epic. We're going to try and play Epic until I actually play it with them. But like, you're not necessarily going to have that luxury with 40k right now. Like, let's say you're a guy who doesn't have a regular group or who doesn't have people he can like play test and like hash through and work through and learn that kind of muscle memory of the game. If you
Yeah,
don't have that, just please really truly do give your opponent, future opponent at an RTT or a GT you're going to go to, give them the courtesy of of reading through the rules and really trying to do your best to conceive of them in your head, comprehend them. And like I said earlier, eighth is simple, ninth edition is not that much more difficult, I would say. I'm guessing. So it's not like you have to study for an SAT, like I was saying. You just kind of absorb it and do your best to retain that information as best as possible. And also, like you said too, I would say, like, if you feel like you found some golden nugget of like super OP dick punching ruleness, like, don't assume that that's necessarily the case. like maybe like don't go into an RTT like with that in mind. Maybe ask that question in like competitive groups or ask that question in your local area, but don't go right into a scenario like thinking, oh yeah, I've got this dick puncher of an army list idea. I'm gonna throw some tables. Especially considering that there may be a chance that you're wrong completely in your inception of it, and just the entire list doesn't even make sense. You know,
yeah. So I think the other thing in regards to muscle memory is you may have to lose the memory of certain actions depending on what the rules are.
that's usually the hardest part.
Since yeah, so like Tom was saying, you may want to be a little forgiving on some of that stuff, and they may not be intentionally cheating or intentionally quote unquote forgetting. It may be the fact that they're just what we used to call additionitis, or we
Mm-hmm.
still call it, where you remember rules from older editions and you think it still works that way when it actually doesn't. So try to be conscious of that and see if and double check the rules. I mean, everyone should have their rule book,
Yep.
especially if you're going to get that starter set. You should have a set of rules on you, like we've always said at any tournament, just in case.
Yeah. Or a digital copy is fine too, as long as
Well,
you
yeah,
have
with
something.
the app, if the app's out when the game comes out, then everyone should have the app. They better have the app, and it better have your codexes and your rule books in there.
Yeah. Or
It should
else.
anyway, or else, well, you get a card. You'll get carded.
One thing that I will say will help players is always a good idea is when you get your first game of ninth edition is don't be like, oh, I read the book, let's play. Like, to actually take the time to go through the game and just
Exactly.
read the rule book as you're doing it of like, okay, I want to shoot, how do I do that, and just read through it, right? Like, and just, it's going to take you forever, but that's fine, right? Because you're just starting to actually take the time to go through it kind of
Mm-hmm.
piece by piece by piece, and you'll very quickly notice like, oh, that's how you do that, that's different than the way we used to, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you just slow yourself and
Yeah.
make yourself go through the rule book essentially as you're playing. It'll help.
And at the end of the day,
And
too, there should be somebody in your group that will have that same mentality. So it's not going to be hard of like to say, hey, I want to do a practice game to figure out this edition with someone. Just post it, and somebody will definitely want to play. I already know Danny Kwan's going to play everybody in SoCal to learn 9th edition before the first tournament.
we need a store first.
Oof.
So for those that have been that listened to the last episode, we mentioned that our local FLGS
Bit the Rona.
had closed due to the owner, first the owner dying, and then his wife saying that she would continue the store, but then the coronavirus hit, and it's just too much for her, so they ended up closing shop. Since then, we've had, as far as I know, there are 3 people trying to open a store in the area. So we went from 1 to 0 to possibly 3. So we'll keep everyone. I know everyone's riveted about what's going to happen, but we'll keep everyone up to date on what happens in regards to if we end up with a store. We could end up with 0 back again. You never know. So we're just waiting. Everyone's just waiting, especially 40K, our local Flames of War group, D&D players, board gamers, everybody, the Pokemon group. Everyone's just waiting to see which store is going to open where and what it's going to be like. So hopefully by next month, or we'll have an idea. But that's what that's right now. But moving on, we'll go to listener questions. If you have any questions in the chat, go ahead and ask away. We had a few questions from the Patreon group. For those that don't know, we do have a Patreon group. Just go to Patreon, look up TFG Radio. $5 gets you in the Patreon group. I do sometimes post the outtake, sort of the kind of pre-show for when we do an episode. Today's was kind of long. It's about a half hour.
Yeah,
because we went about testing the sound, but also we just kept on talking after we just
Banner
tested
Lord,
the
I
sound.
assume.
actually,
No, we were just talking.
No, John's the only one that's been consistently obsessed with that. I'll rotate back in.
Yeah.
I'll rotate back into that like in maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, I'm obsessing on Fallout 76. So
I'm currently playing Metro Exodus.
I already finished Command and Conquer Remastered. So
Did you fucking wow?
It's not that hard.
Well, I mean,
I did have flashbacks. It's just the animation and the and the cutscenes themselves. Oh my god,
dude! Even the music, like the Command and Conquer music, is like very just like unique.
So, Josh, don't know where he's from Parts Unknown. He's asking, with the general points increase across the board incoming, where are armies like Knights and Custodes going to fall? Danny.
I think unless Knights get some generous points fiddling, I think there'll be a spoiler army, because if the game goes more elite, more vehicle heavy, they can still do a lot of damage, but I think they're at a pretty big disadvantage, to be fair. And then Custodes, I think, are actually fine, because I think the game seems to be shifting towards more elite, more durable units, right? And that's what Custodes can do, especially if you've got less models and less space. Units that can efficiently fight and shoot are probably going to be your best investment point-wise, because you can't bring everything. So I think Custodes will actually probably be okay. And again, more terrain means more places for them to hide, right? More things like that.
Right.
So
right.
I think Custodes is probably way better off than Knights. I'm worried about Knights.
So is John. Axis of Entropy, I believe, is Adam. Asks, what unit should we be painting for 9th? And why is the correct answer whatever you think looks cool?
That's always the correct answer.
Which is the Age of Sigmar answer.
I'll answer this. I think that you should just do that. You should literally build whatever you think looks good and wherever you feel like you'll have fun with.
I'm going to build 3 defilers. So 3 defilers. Oh, I got to get more wyverns. I need like 9.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, that's really, if again you haven't been through a lot of edition changes, the most fun I think 40K ever is the first 3 months or so of an edition, because you don't know what is good, you don't know what the metas really is, and so you can just throw whatever the fuck you want on the table, and it's going to be a good
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
Like eventually the game will be solved the way Eighth was, right, in various stages. But again, that takes a few months of real play. So I think just that's the best part is just throwing models on the table and seeing what works. And you could be surprised. You could find a combination that everyone slept on,
Yep.
right, or just don't have, right. Like, who has 3 fucking defilers?
Adam does.
What? Oh yeah, I know, right? Adam also asked. He has a multi-part question. What do you think is good and bad as a TO uh, or judge with the new terrain rules?
uh, I think the worst part is, I'll put it this way: it's you have to do it. If you're a TO or a judge, you have to absolutely, absolutely standardize your terrain. You should have a laminated piece of paper or something posted on the internet, easy to see, of, hey, this terrain piece has these tags, this terrain piece has these tags, and it's just set for the whole event. And there's no bickering. There's no, hey, I thought we said that was blah blah blah. And it's like, no, this
Right.
is what it is. Right, as the TO, as the judge, you set what the terrain is,
Do you
and you
think
make it consistent.
Do you think that's going to lead to tournaments saying that they have board previews? So like they'll take a picture of their board, kind of like SoCal did one year or LVO did one year, like, and just say, "Hey, this is what it looks like."
Yeah, no, I think, or
I've
you
seen
don't
I've
necessarily
seen
have to do the
tournaments do
board.
that.
Yeah, you don't even need to do the board. You just need to use your common terrain pieces, right? Like, so
Yeah.
again, with like the frontline stuff, right? Like, of, okay, these are always going to be treated as ruins. These are
Yeah.
always going to be treated as this. These are always going to be treated as that with these tags,
Right.
right?
Yeah. If you have something that shows all the common terrain and what they actually are, then that's all they need to look at. So once again, paperwork, just like any other job, is the killer of
Yeah,
fun.
it's just suddenly, if you have an event that's like 10 tables, okay, yeah, you got to make 10
Right.
pieces of
Yeah.
paper. If you've got an event that's got 100 tables, sorry, you got to make 100 of those bad boys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just put it into your packet, right? Like, really, ideally, it should just be part of the tournament packet you give your players, right?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
or advertise well in advance.
And I think that's the good thing in terms of just the standardization of what is what.
Right.
So there's no arguments, there's no question um, of
Yeah,
what
the whole, like,
what is what.
players will decide pregame
Oh yeah,
what
that's not
keywords
happening.
everything has. That
That
is
is
just
not happening.
asking for bullshit, right? That is just asking for, it's it's round 5, it's getting chippy, it's at the end, it's, hey, you're trying to charge through that, well, we said
Yeah.
it had the whatever,
You
I
only allow
feature
that
or whatever.
if you only allow that if you want to give out yellows and reds.
Right. Yeah. Where you're hunting, right?
Yeah.
We call that baiting.
So he also asked,
That's
how do
bait.
you imagine? We also imagine them. How do you imagine them playing out in practice?
I mean, you can't really.
Should TOs label each terrain piece with its attributes?
I mean, it's kind of what Danny was saying, right? Like, just like make it clear in a very concise way to your players what's the terrain. But I think like having like literally a piece of paper list next to each terrain piece might be a bit overkill.
Yeah, Hammerhead Games, sell those tokens.
You could do that. I mean, if you made a codified system that was simple, yeah,
I
for sure.
mean,
Or like all
the
red
Boise
terrain is something like like
the Boise Cup listed on each table what the terrain pieces were,
well, there you go. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's certainly
and
doable.
yeah, and
I
they had
think
like 40 something tables.
I think it's something you have to do. And I mean, part of it though is, I really do feel like, I know we don't know what a lot of stuff does, right? Like, what
yeah,
Right.
scalable means, or breachable, or whatever.
yeah,
But I'm pretty sure it's not going to be that radical from what we already do, right? What we already know.
Right.
right.
So a lot of times it's going to just be, it'll suck for a few months, and then we'll all kind of figure out of, like, oh, that's, ruins always act like this,
Yeah.
essentially,
Yes.
where infantry and who knows what else can move through it, and you can climb the levels, but you can't stop here, or you can do this, or you can do that, and it's +1 cover, or it's obscuring, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to
Yeah.
know what fours do. Do they go? Are they infinitely tall?
My
Are they
my
infinitely tall
Oh,
again?
that's full. That's full fourth edition.
my crew
I'll,
want to
I'll,
know if we're suit.
I'll be yeah. I'll be happy to see. I'll probably be
Jump,
happy
shoot,
to
jump,
see.
bitch.
Yeah.
Probably be happy to see Forrest back again.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they were actually worthwhile. Although I just still like I have nightmares of going against Tau in fourth edition and just having the fucking
Oh
2
yeah,
inch wide sliver of forest that is
yeah.
just big enough for like a squad of crisis suits to hide behind and be like, okay, jump, shoot, jump
Jump, shoot,
back.
jump. Yes. Oh my god. I'm surprised they got rid of
Yeah.
that. The last question is Alan from La Cunada. He asks,
I know how to.
Is he asking if we want to join the Proud Boys?
No.
no, oh my god.
Okay, I read his
When
question.
he was God damn it, Tom.
I'm saying he misspelled it. I know what he's
I
saying.
know, I know. Well, can I get the question out first?
Fine.
He's asking if we'll feel comfortable playing in the GT in the not too distant future, like Slaughterfest in August, SoCal Open October, or Hammer Wrath in late September. Um, I personally, it's fine. I'm already committed to fucking Slaughterfest to help judge it, so yes, for me. And I plan to go to, and I'm gonna. Well, we'll see what happens with the. It seems what happens with the restrictions for Hammer Wrath,
Yeah.
but I know that the location of Slaughterfest is open, and I believe San Diego, where SoCal Open is located, is basically I think they're allowed to have uh, an event there.
Yeah. I think people's comfort level will. I mean, it's your own personal thing, right? I mean, depending
Right.
upon how you feel about it, it's how you feel about it, what you believe to be the case in best conscience, etc. The only thing I think you could actually say for certain is that you're going to see certain events not pull as many people as they normally do.
Right.
So let's say Slaughterfest. I mean, I'm just pulling numbers out of a hat. I don't know the actual numbers. Let's say Slaughterfest pulled 100 people last year, and they had a ripper year last year. This year they might pull 80. So I mean that's my hedge bet. Like they're gonna like you're gonna see like a 20% decline in numbers, but it also I mean there's so many variables that could be the case. All I know is you're gonna go see people go there, and people who go there are obviously aware of risk factors,
Right.
and the most that you're gonna see is someone wearing a mask out of courtesy or out of just simple procedure. They're not
Yes.
gonna
I'll probably end up wearing a mask.
yeah just like as a protocol thing or as and then you're gonna get those people who are like yeah well I don't wear a mask because fuck that and I'm gonna be a proud boy just dog around so
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's going to be it's all a personal thing. I mean, it really depends on like, do you have do you have you know vulnerable populations near you that you live with, right? That you visit on a consistent. Maybe you don't want to go, right? Like, um, it depends because we don't know what the world will look like in like August, right? Like,
Right.
California's more or less got it handled, but for all we know, we could go on lockdown again in August because there's a huge crazy spike, right? It's just kind of impossible to tell. So I would just tell people like, just if you're honestly, the best thing is like I almost never get con crud because I wash my hands like a fucking man, like a manic doctor whenever I'm at a convention, right?
Uh
Like
huh.
I wash my hands 40 times a day at LVO, right? Just out of habit. Because you're touching crap, shaking hands, and I just almost never get sick when I go. So I think if you are gonna go, bring a mask. Don't get hung up on it. Bring a mask. Wash your hands. Bring hand sanitizer. Just generally get good sleep so your body's defenses are up, and maybe don't get into the large group wog without a without a mask on. You know,
I'm glad we don't do that anymore.
man, those were the days. All right, let's see which side
Sure.
can wog louder.
Yeah. Wonderful. Um.
All I know is don't take people's dice and be like, "Hey, can I roll
Oh
your
my
dice real
God!
quick?"
Please don't grab your opponent's dice
never do that
without. Never do that at all.
Just bring
always
a can of
ask
Lysol.
always ask first and then because of corona just don't even ask in the first place just fucking bring your own dice. Jeff asked in the chat, what is the next horde nerf? Is blast the extent, or will armies like Tyranids lose auto-passing morale?
Well, synapse is a thing for Tyranids. I don't see them losing that.
Well, I think what he
Tyranids
means
have
is like
always had a form of. I've always had synapse, and it's almost always been a morale negation. So I would be really shocked if they lost it. But I think I'm sure there's probably the way a lot of the like the chatty Cathys of the world are about the who are in the rumors is that hordes keep getting dick punched. I'm sure there's going to be other things in there, but we'll see. I don't think it's that like I don't think orcs are going to lose the busting heads or whatever. I don't
Right.
think, or at least it might not go away entirely. It might get modified. I don't think synapse is going away. It might be modified a little bit, but I think there'll probably be something else, or other things that are going to make it harder to play hordes.
Yeah, and I think that was the last question. Born again man child says that he's ripping off his sponsons and replacing them with flamers.
Hell yeah, man! Like Lehman Russes with flamers, it's just like I said, I was thinking with any like hellhounds that you brought it up, Adam, are
Hellhounds.
like those are actually great like front line. Like you just rush them up the center, and it's like, oh, you're gonna charge me. You better fucking kill me in combat, kid. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, next turn it's just here I am, right? What is it? Taking a can't the knights switch? Oh no, they can't take flamers and so stubborn. But anything that could take a
No,
flamer is like
the
they'll take
knight
that.
has a
They can take Meltas instead of Stubbers.
no, but no, one of the guns that comes with a flamer.
The Gatling.
Oh yeah, the Gatling, like that suddenly becomes pretty useful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, stock went up.
I mean, that's the thing of like in terms of knights being boosted, the fact that they can shoot while I mean they could always you couldn't stop them from shooting, but that they can maybe shoot things that are like tying them up or getting in their way, right? Can free up their further charges. Like that's pretty
Yeah,
good.
if they got charged by like a cavalry unit or a bike unit that they can't just step over.
Right. Yeah, they could just gun them down and then charge out. Like that would be
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm.
God knows I've stopped knights that way of like, well, here, let me just put this wall of,
Yeah.
this
Soldiers.
wall of things you can't go over in front of you, and haha, you know. So we'll see. I don't know, honestly. I like I said, it really is going to come down to the points adjustments. Like
Yeah.
if 20% is the average, then you just have to sit and do the math and see what goes up by how much, because that's what is getting nerfed and what's getting buffed. And I would hope knights wouldn't get too much of a cost adjustment, because if they go to like if like a gallon goes up to like 450 500 points, it's like, wow, playing 2,000 points I can only bring like 3 gallons and like an armiger. That sucks.
Yeah, you probably
Right.
have to
Yeah.
bring more armigers and Helverns instead.
Yeah. Which is like,
All right.
Oh, I was gonna say one last comment. Just Ziar Nurzada said that morale is an interesting point, and that he felt like morale in 8th edition was irrelevant, which I kind of agree.
mostly is.
Yeah, it would be actually very interesting to see morale modifiers and armies that take advantage of that, like Night Lords and Jukari, actually have some more of an impact. So
We'll see. I mean, we don't know. I mean,
We haven't talked
especially-
about it yet.
yeah,
Yeah.
not in any extent.
I mean, that's part of it too. Is we know that okay, all the old books, all the Vigilus stuff, all that is good until you get an updated codex. But there's going to have to be an FAQ day one about rules that just don't work anymore. And maybe that's where they're like, oh hey, Synapse has now changed to this. Oh hey,
Right. Or they're working. They're going to work differently.
Yeah.
I believe that's it. The last piece of business, if you haven't heard, that we are also building now. We're going to build a Necron army with the Necron release coming out. So we're figuring out a color scheme.
Yep.
So each of us, Danny, Tom, John, and I, are painting one immortal. Is it immortal? No.
Lichguard.
What model? Lichguard. We're painting one Lichguard with the sword and board.
This is what mine looks like right now.
Danny's already done his. John has done his. I don't know if we're going to have a fifth one that is the show colors. We might. But what we're going to do is have the you, the people, vote on which color scheme we should go with for our army. So once we get those models in to John, he'll take proper pictures of them and post them up, and we'll vote. You will vote for the favorite, and we'll go with that color scheme when ninth edition drops and we build our show Necron army. But other than that, I don't think there's too many other questions. I think we'll call it for the night.
Yep.
Danny, thank you for coming on. Same with Tom.
Yeah, well, sorry
Any
to have to constantly get up to tend to
that's
my
fine.
No, no,
newborn.
no. It's,
Let Tom talk more.
well,
Again, hence I'm apologizing, right? Like
yeah, go fuck yourself.
Tom, any last words?
No, it's just I guess I'm excited to see ninth edition, and I'm excited to play it. And you're all wonderful people except John, because he couldn't even care to be on. And
We already discussed why he's not on.
Well, yeah, because we're kicking him off. Because now that I've got this wheel of steel running, we can get rid of him. Finally, we're gonna oust that motherfucker. I'm just ready for that.
Right. We'll talk after the show.
we still need his place to do stream days, though.
Danny, Danny, you have anything to add?
Just I don't know, like be good to each other, support your local game stores if you've got one.
I know, right?
Lord knows
I
they
mean,
need
comic stores, game stores. There's a lot of small businesses that the geek world spins around. Like, make sure you're supporting them if you can, right?
Yeah.
If you can't, it's okay, you know. But if you can, and chances are, if you play this hobby, you can in some extent, you know.
Yeah.
Just try and do something to help them out, because this is it's been a brutal couple months for a lot of folks. So
Yeah.
Yes, it has. All right. Well, for myself, thank you everybody for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to everything: Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Just look up TFG Radio. Patreon, if you want to throw us $1 or two, get some secret content.
I don't know why you would, but
Hey, I still have to put up our D&D stuff.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. We
Oh,
should
yeah.
go baach to that at some point.
Now that I've been low key dying to go back to that, because you left.
You just want to go because you're a Lich Lord now.
Yeah. Like you made me fall in love with D&D at the very last session, and now I can't be a goddamn Lich Lord level 10. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
I approve of this.
I need to live that, man. I need
It's
to.
like a popular TV show that just gets canceled.
Yeah, I'm
without
a
final episode.
I'm like
Firefly
Firefly
Jurassic.
season. I was gonna say Firefly. I'm like Firefly season 1 over here, man. Like, come on.
Yeah, no. Only maybe, but you have to promise to try and electrocute John and Adam again.
Oh,
Oh, God.
that is absolutely guaranteed.
As long as you forget that I have plate armor underwater, it's fine.
Okay, I did legitimately forget that, and for me,
No, I'm talking about Danny. Luckily, Danny didn't remember because probably would have died.
For me, it was mostly like, oh, John's making.
No,
it
I
look-
just rolled shitty against you.
Oh, okay.
For me, it was also
That'll-
like
that'll-
John's AC was so high. I was like, yeah, I don't care. He's fine. I was like,
Yeah, I
he's
know,
fine. So,
All right. Well, with that being said, we'll see everybody in a couple weeks. Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
take it easy.